What up, what up, what up, Internet? You tune in to the Enveonline Podcast. You're rocking with your host, Deshaun, a.k.a. Son of a Jones.
And his very angry, frustrated partner, CEO of Envy, Izar Johnson.
Oh, man. We back. We back with episode 23, and we got a lot to talk about in all different segments, from hip-hop to sports to politics. So much to talk about, man.
Yeah.
Snoop done quit weed. Is the sky falling? Like, did we ever think we would see a time where Snoop hopped on the internet and said, I think I'm going to have to give the blunts a break?
Nah, absolutely not.
I will say this, though, before we jump into our hip-hop topics. I think it's a positive thing because, not to get all political, but people have said who smoke weed, like, this new strand of weed is different from the stuff that people smoked in the early 2000s and the early 90s. I guess it's like a lot of hybrid. You know, I don't smoke weed, I don't know, but this is what my friends are telling me. You know, it's a lot of synthetic stuff. People are spraying it, and even I saw some cases where they putting fentanyl on weed. So if you are a smoker,
crazy.
Please be careful with who you buy from. If you can grow it yourself, grow it yourself. But I hope for Snoop's sake, because he's getting up in age and we need our legends around, I hope it's not a health issue. Yeah. You know, you smoke for 30 years, you don't know if you have some type of underlying lung issue. So I wish Snoop Dogg well wishes with his health. So I hope he's just quitting because he's tired of hitting a blunt. Shout out to Snoop Dogg. I think he's going to set a trend in hip hop. So jumping straight into hip hop, because we got a lot of hip hop to talk about. On our podcast, the last couple episodes, we started a conversation with celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And 2 podcasts ago, we gave Nas his flowers. Then the last podcast, we bigged up Busta Rhymes.
Yeah.
We had a real interesting conversation. But now we have another legendary group that we're going to big up, give their flowers, and give some input about why they're so important at hip hop and why we think they should have been bigger than what they were.
Yeah.
So it was an ill group in the golden era of hip hop. I want to say from Brooklyn.
Yes, very much so.
From Brooklyn, called the Boot Camp Clik.
Yes, sir.
Now, you have to be from a certain era to appreciate this, but my partner's going to break it down, let you know how this conglomerate came together of LMCs and what they meant to the culture. So take it away.
Yeah, for a lot of people that don't know, the Boot Camp Clik consists of Black Moon. I'm gonna say Smith and Wesson for real hip hop heads I know, but Tech and Steel, the Cocoa Brothers, who was there after Helter Skelter, OGC, Shucky Ducky. There's a few of them cats, man. There was a big unit in Brooklyn. I think what makes them big is that when they came out, you gotta remember Death Row was popping. If you think about it, it's 1993. Death Row is coming.
Can I add on, not to cut you off? Because that was going to be one of my questions. You just jumped to it earlier.
Yeah.
I know you're going to get into Death Row, so I don't want to throw you off your track.
No,
After you talk about Death Row, I want you to go into the other legendary groups on the East Coast that they had to compete with. And I know you know what I'm talking about, like the EPMDs and so forth.
Yeah, they had, like, you know, they were, to be honest with you, they were part of Bring Back the East Coast movement. Because at one point, the West Coast was rocking. And I mean, they were rocking.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah. So when Boot Camp Clik came, Buckshot, if I'm specifically remembering, I remember like Ice Cube was popping, Death Row was coming. They were already on point. With the Chronic,
also had them brothers
G's,
from
BG Knockout and Druster.
No, Cleveland, Ohio. Them Bone Thugs and Harmony.
They was around that there. They was a little late, but they came. Yeah, they were coming too. So the whole thing is that the East Coast was kind of getting a little bit attacked, but you had the Boot Camp Clik. They were, if anybody knows about that era, it was a Bring Back the East Coast movement. There was Smooth the Hustler. There was Boot Camp Clik. There was Biggie. There was Jay. There was Nas. There was Buster. There was Wu-Tang. But Boot Camp Clik, to me, when you talk about the whole East Coast, they always keep talking about Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. People need to stop, first of all, and I'm not sidetracking. Jay-Z was not the relevant person in that circle.
Time.
He wasn't. It was Big. It was Nas. It was Boot Camp Clik. They were a big part of that. They kept Brooklyn rocking. You know what I mean? They kept Brooklyn rocking. If you go back, go look at the first video Not even the second video, because they did Who Got the Props. That was the first one where they had the hoodies and they had the bats and they bouncing around. You know, the buckshot is moving around, rhyming, right? But then when you look at how many MCs, they're all in that video. All of them are. It's Helter Skelter's in that video. Smith and Wesson's in that video. They're all in there. So long story short, like what gives them so much credibility about who they are and what they do, they were just illmatic with what they did. And I got to remember too, they were also trendsetters. And when I say that, you got to remember at the time, there's big labels like Arista, there's Priority Records, there's Death Row Records, there's Loud Records. Boot Camp Clik did that on an indie label called Nervous Records. They didn't have the big shiny videos. They didn't have, and that's no shot at any rest of them, they didn't have the budgets. But when you looked at them, I mean, they was just raw talent. And then when you looked at them, they represented where they were from. So you loved them. And not to mention, I mean, they did this when it wasn't a popular thing to be on an indie label. I'm not talking for Dipset went to Koch. I'm talking about nobody knew who Nervous Records 90s. Were. Yeah, nobody knew.
Before they dropped their album in 97.
Right. So for them to do and get as far as they did with what they were doing, just on an indie label, what they were doing was a big thing. That was one. Two, them coming in the time that they came in, with no real big backing. It's just them. It's just Black Moon at this point. But what I loved about them is that they always transitioned and bigged up the next crew that was coming. So when you saw Black Moon, if you go listen to Black Moon's album, you can hear Smith and Wesson on there. You know what I'm saying? And then they did Duck Down, OGC Original Gun Clappers. So you heard Smith and Wesson's single coming next. And then after when Smith and Wesson got popping, you heard Helter Skelter on their album. And then they came in with La Fleur Shoska. So
I don't want to interrupt your thought pattern because you're going in.
Yeah.
But the blueprint that you're giving me is sounding very similar to how Wu-Tang was rolling out their members.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that had some influence on what the Boot Camp Clik was doing?
1000% do believe it. I think Boot Camp Clik they were trendsetters. We just didn't have social media back then. They were they were setting a lot of trends, but nobody saw it. And I don't even think, if I don't know Buckshot, I've never met Buckshot. I've seen him. I've ran into him, younger, but he would probably tell you like, yo, we didn't realize what we was doing, but we knew what we was doing. In other words, like when you look back at it now, that was groundbreaking. That was trend setting. So anyway, they started doing their thing and they were starting to let out classic material. What I loved about, I think it's Enter the Stage, Black Moon's first album. What I loved about it was that they not only did their album, but they pushed their singles like, Who Got the Props, and then, I just said the single. How Many MCs?
Oh, How Many MCs?
So How Many MCs? Once How Many MCs hit, what they did was they remixed like some of the songs on the album. So I Got You Open and Buck 'Em Down was singles that came. That wasn't those singles that you hearing on the radio. Those weren't singles that were initially on the album. So they remixed it and then made it even hotter. Think what gets a lot of credit from them, they didn't make a lot of radio friendly hits. They just were that raw that everybody loved them. I think where maybe things might have got a little goofy, or not goofy, but so much as to say, I think things got a little funny was when they left Nervous Records and they went to Priority Records. Whatever happened with Priority, it wasn't the music, but for whatever it didn't work right. And what ended up happening, I don't know if Black Moon got comfortable. I don't know what they were promised or Boot Camp Clik was promised. But when you look back at it, once Helter Skelter came out, OGC came out, they went circle back around the Black Moon's second album.
Warzone.
Yeah, Black Moon's second album was like 2 turntables and a mic and all that. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening for whatever reason, but I noticed this time when they came back around for the second coming, they weren't dropping videos like that. Mm. You gotta remember that's an era where videos is irrelevant.
Big. It was
a big thing. So when they did 2 turntables and a mic, I don't think I saw anything after that. Same thing with Cocoa Brothers' second album. Same thing with Helter Skelter's second album. Like when you go look at Helter Skelter's first set of videos for the first album.
That would be rocking Sean Price, right?
Right.
Rest in peace, Sean Price.
Rest in peace. So if you go and look at it, with Therapy and La Fleur, Shoska and all that, it's Brooklyn. It's who they is. It's you love it. Even if it's funny, it's still them, right? When you go to I Ain't Having That, they in like a country bar and there's people dance. And the song was banging. Don't get it twisted. It's just a vision that I think that was going because now there's more money behind it, but there's no push.
No culture.
Yeah,
needed.
there's no pushing it. Go ahead.
Let me add on to your point because as a young man, you got a chance to grow up in Brooklyn throughout certain years.
Yeah.
Being that that's your era, that was the soundtrack to the culture that you grew up in. What would be one of their tracks that spoke to your soul from a Brooklynite? That you said, man, yo, me growing up in Brooklyn, yo, that spoke to my soul no matter what time period, whether it was early 90s or late 90s. If you could pick a song.
For Black Moon, Duck 'em Down. Buck 'em Down. I'm sorry, not Duck 'em Down. Buck 'em Down. Buck 'em Down and How Many MCs. Those for Black Moon. For Smith and Wesson, it's the joint where they dissing Biggie and Lil' Kim, man.
They was getting that. Yeah, they did have a little problem.
Yeah. They had a big problem. I think Sterling Wonder had an even worse problem. So I'm not gonna go there though with that. But they what was it? Oh my God, why am I missing this? But they, looking at my page, it's about that time to load up my 9 and do my daily crime. So that one is from Smith and Wesson. From Helter Skelter, I mean, what's the other joint? They was in Prospect Park doing that video for people that in Brooklyn. They was in Prospect Park. They was like running around like they were Indians. Yo, if you go look at the video, I'm gonna pull this up. But those is the kind of songs that spoke to me, from Boot Camp Clik. I forgot the name of that joint.
It'll come to you. You can skip over it.
Yeah.
And the reason why I asked you that question, because I think it's important to highlight their uniqueness.
Yeah.
Because now what we see in hip hop, we see an identity crisis from certain New York artists, where certain New York artists are sounding like they want to be drill artists from the Midwest, or they're rapping from artists in Atlanta. And what you're describing from the Boot Camp Clik and each individual member of groups was they was keeping it Brooklyn at a time and needed to be kept Brooklyn.
Facts. Yeah, Operation Lockdown. That was that. If you go look at Operation Lockdown, that was crazy. They was like running around and they was like running around like they was like Indians and stuff, and they was in the woods. It's a crazy video. You got to see it. But if you see it, it's dope, man. And then as far as
we might got footage.
Yeah. Original gun.
Can we show the Young Bucks?
Yeah. That right there. That right there. That's see.
Rest in peace to Sean Price. Shout out to Rock.
Yeah. And he's telling the whole story. He's telling the whole story in that song.
Talk Rock. That's someone play for you young cats. That's before your time.
Soundboy Burial. That's what it is. For Smith and Wesson. That was, oh my God. That was like, even though he was dissing Biggie and Kim.
Refresh my memory. Was it like the battle of who owns Brooklyn? Do you think that was it, or was it some other behind the scenes street stuff?
That's a good question. I think it had to be something it came out of nowhere.
And let me say, as a journalist, I'm not trying to instigate nothing for no internet views. I generally want to know because
that's what it was. Because let me tell you, and this is we're gonna get into that before the 50th year is over. You're gonna what it was is Biggie did a cover.
Okay.
And he was the king of New York. And the source's fault. They put him as the king of New York. I never forgot this because it was kind of, I don't know, was it before the cover came out? But Biggie was being seen as the king of New York.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Wu-Tang Clan didn't like that.
A lot of artists they were not comfortable with that title. They was like, no, he is not us.
Raekwon.
Because when people hear Juicy and all that, and I mean it's a classic and all that, but when you look at Boot Camp, go look at the video of Juicy. That's the first video Biggie got, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we all know he did Party and BS and all that, but I mean that was Big's first real video. Go look at Buckshot's first video. What looks more Brooklyn? You get what I'm saying? So I mean, there's bits and pieces. There's bits and pieces. But a lot of artists from New York didn't feel like Big was the king of New York. He ain't the king of New York. That we don't all feel like that. So I think that was part of it that played a part in it. If I'm not mistaken, because Boot Camp wasn't the only one. They were just the only one really willing to showcase it. Yeah, because Ghostface and them said they said on a skit. They didn't really do anything on a video. Boot Camp in that video was showing that we don't rock with you, and this is what we think of you, and what you gonna do about it. That's what it was. I think that's what it was, man.
You know what? And what I would like to say is, had Big would have never gotten that situation, I think it would have been healthy competition for New York.
Yes,
but I think they would have worked it out.
Yeah,
and it would have been something incredible.
Facts. Super facts.
You know, not dwelling on beefs and stuff. So we talked about how they kept it Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Are we in the middle of Drew High and them doing duck down management? Because that's an integral part of the Boot Camp Clik story.
Yeah, Duck Down Records, yeah.
Duck Down Records. Yeah. Do you think that's talked about? Because, and the reason why I'm not talking about hip hop heads like me and you, because you know how long I was talking about, we need to go interview Drew High because of that story. Mm-hmm. Why isn't Duck Down Records talked about in the same manner as the Rockefellers and the Dipsets and so forth? Because from an underground perspective, who has had a bigger underground movement from New York outside of Duck Down Records? They got the Rusty Juxes and they got so many ill. And I think Sky Zoo is over there.
Yeah.
And if he's not, my bad, but I thought Sky Zoo was affiliated with Duck Down Records.
Yeah,
they got so many ill underground MCs, man.
Yeah, and I looked up one day, and they just weren't. I don't want to say the word. They weren't relevant. Something just wasn't like they just stopped. It just looked like they stopped. I think they were trying to get out of that deal with Priority because nobody that's never talked about. I think Priority dropped the ball, but I think it's a combination of both. When you're on Nervous Records and you from Brooklyn, you ain't got nothing to lose, and you just independently moving, you're just doing what you want to do. So when you're on Priority and you drop an album, you're not making remixes to songs that you releasing. Buck 'em Down was not that was a remix people was listening to. He's like, yo, God, hit him with a verse real quick to show him how you represent the Boot Camp Clik. Like that those songs weren't that wasn't on the original. So when you go back and look, when they got on Priority, it wasn't remixing the songs like that. La Fleur, Shoska, if anybody's ever heard the remix to it, it's insane. So they're not doing that on there. When they were on Nervous, they were doing it. When they went to Priority, they just released the album, dropped a video, and that was it. And it wasn't. See, when they was on Nervous, that you got Who Got the Props, which got them in the door. But how many MCs? That's when people started. Everybody was looking. So, and then when everybody was looking, here you come with I Got You Open. Here you come with Buck 'em Down. Here you come. You see what I'm saying? So now here comes Smith & Wesson with Bucktown. And that was just a single. I remember that. If I remember correctly,
I was young when that came out.
That was just a single. So, right. So then here comes Smith & Wesson, and then here they come again. They remixed Recognize when they released their album, and they remixed something else. And then I think here comes Helter, and then they had Helter Skelter on the album. I forgot what rock was, because I remember his voice was sticking out of the song. And then here comes my man G too, my man Jeff. I ain't gonna say this whole government because I don't think he wants all that out there. But my man G, he put me on a Helter Skelter. Him, both. There was two people in my crew, both named Jeffs. One was he from down Nauru, and the other one was from BK. But both of them was hip hop heads, and they both had me on Helter Skelter. So Helter Skelter came, and then when they did La Fleur Shoska, it just introduced the rest of the crew, and it blew them up. You know what I'm saying?
So I was watching an old interview when Rock did an interview with Vlad TV, and he was asking him about the formation of Boot Camp Clik, and he said, well, at some point along the time. We all knew each other as kids, whether we bumped into each other or not.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before my era, but he was talking about how certain members were down with the Deceps in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You could break that down? Yeah. What was that whole Decepticon era about, man? If you could say.
From what I do know, Decepticons were a crew. They were moving in a way that a lot of rappers be rapping about but not really doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna
We don't gotta get into it.
I'm just, before cameras were everywhere in New York, you had to be who you said you was, and the Decepticons exactly who they were. They were kind of like the Lowlives. I don't know if people know who they are, but the Lowlives they were ruthless. You know what I'm saying? They kind of did their thing with the I think 50 put them in that power with the Raising Canaan.
Yeah,
I think he put.
You saw when they was boosting and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, that was only
and
one.
That was just a little.
That was just one little thing. That wasn't. Yeah, there's a whole nother story behind that.
That was palatable for America to watch.
Decepticons was they was no joke, man. They was who they said they was.
But it's interesting. The reason why I wanted to bring that out, because there's a certain thing that you said, being a part of the Decepticons, which again is before my era, so I'm not trying to act like I know about it.
Mm-hmm.
They had to be who they said they was.
Yeah.
And that's what they rapped about.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain level of authenticity during that time period of the golden era of hip hop in the 90s that made artists stick out, especially on the East Coast. When what you're talking about, bringing the East Coast movement back. And where I wanted to go with this was, there were a lot of groups that were coming out at that time. The Naughty by Natures.
Yeah.
The Onyxes.
Yes.
People who now we research like they was really rapping what they were living about. I ain't gonna go to the Ja Rules and the DM. I'm not gonna go down that, but just there were prominent groups on the East Coast, EPMD.
Mm-hmm.
How did they measure up against those groups during the 90s?
What Boot Camp Clik did?
Yes.
They were part of that movement. They measured fine. Matter of fact, Keith Murray was part of that, bringing the East Coast back movement. They came during all that. They were all during that period. And what was crazy, you know what's so funny? When you look at other coasts, they all stick together. You know what makes New York different? We weren't all together. Mm-hmm. New Yorkers were not all together. You even talk about like upstate wasn't rocking with downstate.
That's going to be a whole different podcast because I want to talk about that in full length.
Like upstate wasn't really rocking with downstate, and even in New York, like certain boroughs wasn't messing with each other. Mm-hmm. Even when you look at the Jay and Nas beef sometimes, kind of I don't want to use the word ignorance, but the stupidity of, not the stupidity of, but just the egotistical, naive behavior of, you know, well, he's from Brooklyn, he's from Queens. So it's that Brooklyn Queens thing that been going on all that time. Mm-hmm. Everybody wasn't rocking together. Keith Murray was with Def Squad. Boot Camp Clik was who they was, and they didn't like what Boogie was repping in Brooklyn. That they felt that wasn't Brooklyn. So, you know, at one point, it is what it is. They weren't all together, but yet they were still, New York took over everything. Even divided, New York took over everything. I'm gonna say that one more time. Even divided, New York took over everything. And it's no shot at other coasts, but let me ask you something. You think the West Coast, a lot of those cats kind of ain't really getting along. They still can't take over everything.
Nope.
The only thing they was taking over when Death Row was popping. So they all was together. And that's not a shot, it's just facts. Same thing with down south. That's how they got popping. They all stuck together. In New York, they were not all together. Wu-Tang was not rocking with Biggie. They were not. And I think at one point, and I'm not trying to go into a whole history lesson, Wu-Tang and Busta wasn't really seeing eye to eye because RZA made some real slick comment on the skit, but he made it clear it wasn't about him. Mm-hmm. But to make a long story short, what I'm telling you is that a lot of cliques and squads weren't dealing with each other. You either was with your crew or you wasn't. You know what I mean? That's why I think sometimes people underestimate. That was big for Redman and Method Man to get on the album together. You were Wu-Tang and I'm with Def Squad. That's just what it is.
And we see the history they made by merging together.
Yeah.
Now, to bring it back to Boot Camp Clik, if you had to talk about certain crews that we just talked about, and we talked about them measuring up, where would you rank them as far as East Coast hip-hop groups? And you can pull out, I'm not saying pull them all out because there's a lot of known and underground.
Yeah.
But if you can rank them, whether it's 1 through 10 or 1 through 5, where would you rank them?
Oh boy, it's tough. They're in the top 10.
Okay.
It's just a debate whether they're in the top 5 or the lower bottom 5. When I say lower bottom, that's not a diss. It's just where they at in the top 10. There is somewhere in the top 10 because you got to think Rockefeller has the crown as far as East Coast camps. You said East Coast camps, right?
Yes, we're just gonna do.
When you
just
talk about East Coast camps, you definitely got to put Wu-Tang. You have to do Rockefeller. You have to do. Nobody wants to admit this. Hit Squad. They trendsetted a lot of things. I said Biggie. See, Biggie's camp is kind of hard. So you just want to say Biggie, Bad Boy, and Junior Mafia, whatever. You mix that all in. Who am I missing here? Rough Riders, Dipset, G Unit, Murder Inc. Nobody wants to acknowledge it because of the way 50's rolling, but Murder Inc. is in there. I'm missing somebody in here. Terror Squad facts because of punning them. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody in here. There's somebody I'm missing. I want to say Def Squad, but that's still with Eric Sermon and them. But, Def Squad, definitely, yeah, Def Squad. Mm-hmm. I'll put Def Squad in there.
So you got them in the top 10.
Yeah. Boot Camp is all in the middle of that. Because I think Boot Camp doesn't get they do not get the credibility they deserve. I'm telling you that.
And that's where I was going with.
Yeah, they don't. They don't get the credibility they deserve. They were on indie labels when there was no, and let me tell you, it's not like and that's not to be funny with you, like your era is like, with the era, I like that era too. With the, there's the mixtapes and the DVDs and all that. Kids were going to buy the stores and mixtapes. We bought mixtapes too, but it's not like what it is now, like with the CDs and then you got the DVD and all that. Like Boot Camp was doing that all then. They came out of nowhere. I'm being honest with you. They came out of nowhere. And when I kept hearing how many names, I was like, yo, who the F is this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, these cats is rugged. You know what I mean? Like it was what it was. I heard Who Got the Props. That's what put them on.
Okay.
When Who Got the Props came, they was on not Rap City, I'm sorry, Yo MTV Raps. They were on there, but that took a lot to do that from an indie label. That takes a lot to do. I don't think people understand that. They did that going to MTV, BET, and all those other platforms. They did that. Just what it is, man.
That's what's up. What else would you... Okay, let me phrase it like this, because I don't want to say they're done because they're still out here touring and doing shows. And if you could sum up their legacy, what would their legacy be as a group?
The whole crew?
Just in general, because we're talking about the Boot Camp Clik and giving them their flowers. So what would you give their legacy?
I don't want to make it seem like they're following somebody. They were trendsetters. They were young, not kids, young artists from Brooklyn that had a lot to say, and they were very talented. And they didn't follow anybody. They did their own thing. They set their own trend, but that's a New York thing. Yeah. They set their own trend. They wasn't going to follow the trend. They were going to become the trend, and that's exactly what they did. And I want to say before Wu-Tang, they was a Wu-Tang. That was it. They before Wu-Tang, they were Wu-Tang. I mean, every one of them could have been solo artists. Every one of them. They just came out in crews. So you had Black Moon, Smith & Wesson, Helter Skelter, OGC. But all of them could have been independent artists. They could have been, independent solo artists. They just came out in crews. So I would definitely say trendsetters that helped rep Brooklyn and kept Brooklyn on the map when things were looking a little scary. And they also gave another option, a voice for BK in New York and the East Coast when maybe things weren't. I'm going to keep saying this, and it's not a diss. A lot of people say Big's the greatest and Frank White and all that. I'm telling you, I was around. I know from anybody that was a hip-hop head back then, whether you was a teenager from going up then, everybody was not tuning with Biggie. They didn't like what he was repping. They don't like that, the Versace. We don't do it.
Can I go there?
Ahead. Yeah.
Because you're just about to steal my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think, because this is at the time, if we're just going to be honest and go through a timeline of our culture and hip hop and what was going on in the 90s, we're fresh off the crack era. Yeah. Let's just be honest. So when you said people couldn't see themselves in Versace's, they were living rough, rugged, and raw.
Yeah.
Did the boot camp Clik, were they in those
No.
April, what's her name? April
Walker?
Were they in the Walker Wear campaigns?
They had their what did they have? They had their own stuff.
Yeah. So the point I'm making is
they
you know how you saw Pac in campaigns and Biggie in campaigns.
Yeah.
But boot camp Clik was wearing
fatigues.
They was dressing like a regular Brooklyn. I don't want to say the N word, but you know where I'm going
Brooklyn
with it.
cats, yeah.
That's like basically that's the point I'm trying to pull out. What you're trying to say?
Yeah.
They were dressing like the people. So when you said Brooklyn saw themselves in a boot camp Clik, the average person in Brooklyn wasn't rocking Versace at that time.
It wasn't doing that. Yeah. So they was kind of looking like, yo, man, you know, that ain't us. That's not who we are. That's just not. And I you know, anybody that wants to contest that, go ahead, man. I know. I was listening to this. I was like back then, like we had to go looking. It's not that we had to go looking. All we had was the source. That's all we had back in the day. You didn't have. You had the source, mixtapes. I think Rap City started popping, but we had Yo MTV Raps, in the radio. That was it. So I don't think that when you're listening, like boot camp didn't. You know, boot camp. They spoke for a lot of people. A lot of people felt the same way they did. So I don't know how they did it in the end. I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't a series of beef, but it did get physical. I'm not going to speak on what it was, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, they kind of repped what other people were feeling and saying, and it's definitely in the music and everything. I'm telling you, I was around for that. Nobody talks about that because Big is gone.
Out of respect,
but I'm telling you, he was not. Everybody was not happy, dog. They were not. I'm telling you.
So as a young lad, I got some stepbrothers, and we were fans of Bone Thugs and Harmony. And as kids, we used to like to pick our favorite. You know, who's your favorite member? You know, Crazy Bone or Lazy Bone. If I put you on the spot, who was Azar's favorite member out the boot camp Clik?
You're gonna put me on a spot like that, aren't you? You're a funny dude. I gotta say, Rock, definitely Rock. I just
from Helter Skelter.
Yeah. I liked everything he was doing. I liked everything he was saying. His voice alone was Illmatic.
Was pumping out a lot of them choruses.
Yeah. Him and Buckshot. Buckshot was just an Illmatic cat. It's just too bad Priority just messed that up. And we'll get into that conversation another time. But I remember a lot of labels messing up a lot of talent. I saw a lot of talent walk through a lot of labels, and I saw them screw it up. So I'm not going to keep going on and on. But at the end of the day is what I'm saying is you know, Buckshot he was that guy. He was that dude. But he never had a Dame. He never had a Puffy. He didn't have that guy. It was just him and Drew Ha. Just two young bulls figuring it out. I just want you to I want you to understand it. It may seem cool and okay now because ASAP Rocky and what's the young boy's name from BK that passed?
ASAP Yams.
Not Yams.
ASAP Ferg.
No, not the ASAP mob. The cat that died in Cali. The kid, man.
I'm drawing a blank.
Huh?
PNB Rock.
Not PNB. What's the other kid? He just he was in the strip club in the video. He had
Vaughn?
Huh?
I don't know where Vaughn was from.
Nah, he died in Atlanta.
The dude that remember he was in a house and
Pop Smoke.
Pop Smoke. Like I know it's okay for these young kids to come out and they got crews and they're nice and they can do that. I'm just telling you that during that era, when you don't have nobody backing you, but you and Drew Ha just doing your thing with a bunch of wild Brooklyn boys around you, it's kind of hard in an independent label and you that nice and somehow you broke through the door. I don't think people understand that. And that's just where I want to leave it at with that. When you said you want to ask me why, that's what's impressive. And they never sold their soul or never tried to make radio records to try to make themselves look like something to try to make you gravitate towards them. You gravitate toward their talent. Mm-hmm. They didn't have big, hot video models. They didn't have the shiny cars. They didn't have that. It was talent, and what it was is like they told a story. And then when they weren't telling a story, they were just spitting on the mic, killing it. So I mean, it was just hip hop, man. That's the best way I can describe the boot camp click.
That's what's up, man. We just did like a 30-minute convo bigging up the boot camp click, which was very prominent in the 90s. And we're going to continue to keep this conversation going because this 50th year of hip hop is very important for our culture. And us as a podcast or whatever platform you want to say, I think we got to continue to do this and talk about the artists that are not being talked about, especially right now. And we're going to go into another hip hop segment. And people will understand why I say that.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of music dropping. Your boy Drake came out of the left field and jumped off and did the elbow drop. Hey, I'm releasing an album. Macho Man Randy Savage. Your boy Andre 3000. The South got something to say. The South didn't have nothing to say.
Yeah.
You know, he hit us with the whole flutes, man. Like,
Jesus.
You know, we're going to talk about it. So I want to go in next. I'm going to leave the album reviews or what I got to say about the albums last because there's an even more important topic. So in hip hop, there's been a conversation for about a week or and a half. An artist out of New Orleans by the name of D1.
Okay.
So I'll refresh people, the younger generation that might see this, or if you see this on TikTok, D1 is a musician that was dropping music, I want to say around 2008. So he's been out. Because I keep hearing rappers say, well, who is he? He ain't put in no work. He's been out for 15 years. Outside of him being a quote-unquote Christian rapper, he's also a school teacher.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when people talking about, is he doing work? He talks about him being a middle school teacher, and he talks about him being a fellow professor at Tufts University and other universities. I think it's important to say that because when we talk about our hip hop artists being teachers, he's actually a teacher.
Right.
So he got on a Sway interview and he politely said, you know, hey Ross, hey Meek Mills, I respect you guys. I would like you to do better. And he's one of the first ones that didn't send a subliminal message. He named names. So it sent a whole wave of ricochet through hip hop media and people were 50-50.
Yeah.
Yo, I agree with his message, but why did he have to name names? So for those audience, because there was a lot of people saying that, and I'll get to Jim Jones last, but for those audience who are saying, why is he naming names? You're not familiar with that man's catalog. He released a song 13 years ago called Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and Weezy. That's the name of the album. Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and Weezy by D1. That song came out 13 years ago. It has 2 million views on YouTube. So he didn't just start doing this. He's been doing the work. And that was just his overall message. Hey, you say you're speaking for prison reform. But then in your single that you dropped with Rick Ross, you're talking about, oh, I have my boys do X, Y, and Z. So it's a contradictory message. And we're talking about that in the 50th year of hip hop of our older artists. Now, I expect this from the 20-year-olds. I understand that the 20-year-olds are not as mature as us men. Meek Mill is my age. I'm in my mid-30s. I told my age on here, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Rick Ross is way older than that. He's in his mid-40s.
Yeah.
Jim Jones.
40s too. Yeah, I'm not.
Jim Jones is in his late 40s. So we're not talking about young rappers. We're talking about middle-aged men, some of them who are close to being grandfathers. And I don't mean to be funny. I mean, you're literally close to the age.
No, you didn't.
Let's call it what it is. When you're in
yeah.
your late 40s, you're close to being a grandparent.
Right.
You're now about to usher in the grandfather hip-hop era, and there's nothing wrong with that. So what he's saying is, can we get some age-appropriate music? At what point do we start saying, hey, do I want to hear that from a 45-year-old? No matter how good it sounds. You know, Andre 3000, and we'll get to Andre next, but I'm just going to give it to what he said. He said, you know, I kind of feel like hip-hop is for the younger generation. What am I supposed to talk to you guys about? I'm 48. What am I going to rap about? Having a colonoscopy? Now, there's a little more context to that, but I agree with that statement. He's being real. I'm 48. What do you guys want me to give you at this age? But we have these artists over here at 45 and 47 talking about how they still gangsters and I forgot what was the crew that him and Mano called themselves.
The Lobby Boys.
The Lobby Boys. Mano's older than Jim. I don't know if you know, but Mano's 50.
I didn't know that.
He don't look 50, but
No,
you
he
look at his
doesn't.
Wikipedia, it says he's 50.
He look like
He looks like
late
he's
20s.
yeah.
Jesus.
But the point I'm making is 45, 47, and these artists these age is still trying to portray like they 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So when the hip hop community was saying, well, he didn't have to say their names. Yeah, but the point still stands.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just gave a full context of D1. What did he say at the Sway interview? And we'll save Jim Jones for last, so don't go on a tangent. But just his overall message when we talked about this off air, what were your thoughts on it?
The thing is like, I'm kind of 50-50 on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to tell you why. You can't get mad because sometimes it's without saying names. That's all they know. So what do you want them to rap about? I can't imagine 50 Cent rapping to me about taxes. I just can't. And that's not a shot at 50. He could make some song that's very, very... I want to hear the story about what happened after you made it. I want to hear that story. I know you can make music like that.
That's my pushback in agreement with you.
But because there's been some stuff you've been through, you just ain't opening up about it. But I think the point I'm making is that it is the flip side of it. Is like, well, what do you want them to rap about? If Rick Ross starts rapping about something else, I'm kind of looking at him like, what you doing? What you doing, man? But at the same time, I feel you. I do. It's a without you, because if you stop me if you don't want me to make this point, you can't have your kids in private school.
Go
and
ahead.
be up
No,
here rapping. You can't have your kids in private school rapping about drugs and selling on the block and this, that, and the third. When you know the game. When I was younger, I didn't understand what I understand now. I'm not gonna open up about that. I will talk about that later on. But to give you a snippet, I just went to a funeral where I had to bury my friend. The conversations we were having when we was in our 20s, we're not having those conversations anymore. So for me, when I'm listening, like, what are you doing? You get what I'm saying?
So that's where I'm in agreement. Not to cut you off. That's
Yeah.
where I'm in agreement with you. The same conversations, whether me and you, because me and you are close, or me and my homeboys were having at 21 through 28, are not the same conversations. And I'm only in my mid-30s. I'm not even 39. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm not having those conversations no more. Like, yeah, when I'm in the gym, I play everything because I need to get crazy in the gym. But I got an 8-year-old son. When my 8-year-old son's in the car and I hear da-da-da-da-da, gotta hit that button.
Yeah.
Because we know how influential music is.
Yes.
We know how people keep talking about these rappers aren't your parents, but I think that's cliche because music has been raising us since the blues era.
Facts.
My grandmother used to tell me, my grandmother was born in the 40s. She used to tell me how her and her sisters and her siblings used to sneak away and go to the jukebox when Nat King Cole was doing his thing on his guitar. Music has been raising people since the slavery era. So we got to stop this, these rappers aren't your parents or whatever. They're going to influence people because that's what art does. So I think Dr. Umar, somebody said that. He said he was in agreement with the point you said. Okay, yeah, maybe the first 10 years you rapped about just leaving the hood and you was creating those songs like that. But if you've been living in the mansion in 20 years and your kids is living this lifestyle, how are you keep giving me the same album? And guess where I'm going to go with it at? We're in this great moment of hip hop right now where a lot of music dropped. Jeezy dropped a few days ago, and I'm going to talk about Jeezy's album. Perfect example. Andre 3000 dropped. I'm going to talk about that. Drake dropped. Guess who we're talking about on the internet? We're talking about Drake bars. And I'm going to play some Drake bars in a minute, but boy, he went the hell off. I guess he got tired of Joe Buttons dissing him and sending subliminals, and he said, all right, I'm going to come back and rap. You know who they're not talking about?
Who?
That Meek Mill album flopped. That Meek Mill and Rick Ross album. Anybody quoting any bars from it?
Did you hear it?
Anybody quoting any bars from it?
I get that. I'm asking,
I turned it on and turned it off.
Yeah, why?
Rolling on my wrist.
Why? It sounded that bad?
Rolling on my wrist.
I
I'm
did not
going to get you hit. It's the same thing. That's the point I'm making.
But look what Meek Mill's comes from. I'm not defending him, but look what he comes from.
Meek Mill says net worth is over $20 million when somebody asked him in a recent interview. Yes. you do come from it. Me and Meek Mills are the same age.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in the crack era. I know where I came from in upstate New York. I'm not a rapper, though, so I understand. So I don't want nobody to say, but D, you're not a rapper.
Mm-hmm.
Where I come from doesn't dictate how I act in my mid-30s.
True. You know what? Let me give you a good compare and contrast, right? So we're not going to name the location, right? But you know, I went to suburban high school, right?
Yeah, we won't say the name.
Predominantly white, right? It's funny, the people around that look like you, that live in other environments that are not suburban, will clown you, try to disrespect you, and you know you have to go through it. And you know, I didn't tolerate it. Sometimes I responded back in a way that was extremely aggressive.
Oh yeah.
So the point I'm making is that at the end of the day, my whole thing is, this is how I feel about it. It's like the drug dealer, the street kid that sees a suburban black kid. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, he's a cornball, he's corny, this and the third. But that's where you're trying to go. That's where you want your kids to go. But you're dissing the one that's there. So my point is, it's kind of like it's a comparison. It's a corn. You're contradicting yourself. You lost fool. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Now, I'm not going to harp too much on Meek Mill and Jeezy, but I had to bring that point up because they were up in arms about D1. They threw their little shots. Oh, you know, you corny, blah, blah, blah. They threw their shots. But your album flopped. You're Rick Ross. You're Meek Mill. That album was not supposed to do 30,000. It was supposed to do close to 100. And I'll take away numbers. Let's take away the numbers. Mm-hmm. People are supposed to be having a conversation about it. That's more important. People are supposed to say, did you hear that single? Homeboy was going crazy. Mm-hmm. I'm not, you know me, I'm a social media person with our content. Mm-hmm. Nobody's quoting any bars.
No.
Nobody's talking about nothing.
No.
No subject matter.
To kind of give you an idea, the best question I could ask them, they say that D1's corny. I just wonder, would they let their daughter go date a guy that's rapping like them? Wouldn't do that though, would you? But you let them go date a guy like D1 because you feel secure, because he's probably not going to lead your daughter down the path that a dude like you or somebody in your crew is rapping like. You see where I'm going with that? Yeah. Let me just say this, and you know about a personal issue. I'm going to kind of speak about it without speaking about it. I'm seeing somebody that's coming out of a situation in their 40s and acting like they in their 20s.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very sad, pathetic look. And I don't think they get it. And I had to remove myself from that situation. So understand what I'm saying to you. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Understand what I'm saying to you. When I hear these guys talking, let me put it to you this way. I don't have a problem with Maine on them doing the Lobby Boys, right? Because that was part of an era that you can't deny, and that's where they come from. And it kind of reminds you that it's good. It's all good music. Also make the music too that about reality, man. Mm-hmm. Start talking about when you was hurting in your pockets and you was broke. Stop talking about when there's jealousy and hate. Start talking about when these labels was trying to play you and pit you against one another. Start talking about your young black males like, this is what y'all gotta look out for. Mm-hmm. We not hearing that. You know, it was never a problem. I don't want to sound like the old head. It was never a problem. You know, that's why I always had a problem with Pac sometimes when he went his rants. We need De La Soul, Common, Dead Prez. We need those guys because we can't keep listening to this story. We cannot.
Say it again. That's a bar.
We need people like De La Soul, Dead Prez, Black Sheep. We needed those guys. Poor Righteous Teachers. We need those guys because we can't keep listening to that other stuff. It's been so long you keep listening to that. And it's you know what the sad part about it is? Like even now, that's a problem with the women. You remember, because you've always emphasized this. It's like, Cardi B and them, I don't have a problem with them doing it. I like their music. I listen to it. I have a problem because Jean Grey's not getting put on the radio. I heard Queen Latifah. I heard Queen Latifah, Moni Love, Yo-Yo, Roxanne Shante, Salt and Pepper. And even though when Foxy and Kim came out, there was still other artists. There was Muhammadia, there was Rod Digger, there was Lauryn Hill. There was a balance. Now, Ice Spice and them, they ain't no difference.
Nominated for a Grammy. Shout out to Ice Spice.
Salute, but there ain't no difference. It's the same thing. And and kind of what D1 is making a point of, you're spewing out this destruction, right? To give a short version, these black women keep talking about, we need to respect us and protect us. listen to what you singing in them songs.
Mm-hmm.
An N-word ain't this. I get an N-word for his money. N-word ain't this. You better have six figures, this, that, and the third. But you ain't talking about the other side of the story where you stripping, playing yourself, selling your soul, degrading yourself. And on top of that, you would never let your kids do that. But you out here telling other young black girls to do that. And you want me to protect that? You must be out your rabbit ass mind. But nobody talks about that part of the story. There's not a female MC that comes out. No disrespect to Jean Grey. I guarantee if Rod Digger came out with an album, she'd light their ass up and let them all have it. What you gonna do about it? Because one, I'll mop the floor with you physically. Two, another thing, on the mic, you'll never get me. I'll light you up. We need that. So I think to make it all come back around, that's D1's point. Like, if you want to make that, he's saying, yeah, you sell death and destruction, because at the end of the day, y'all kids ain't nowhere near that. Your kids is nowhere near that.
That was the overall point of why I wanted to bring that up. I hear people in the comments even replying to my comment on a post. Yo, it's art. You can't criticize art. I said, yeah, art is also an imitation of life.
Yeah.
Meek Mill is my age. We're both in our mid-30s. I know outside of this podcast and media, because we do a lot of media, I know what I'm doing in my real life.
Right.
I got 3 kids. I got a dog. I got a wife. I know what my body feels like. I know about me working out. I know about taxes. I know what the lifestyle's about for a middle-aged black man.
Facts.
I'm not hearing that in the music. I hang around also older men since I was young. You, family members, friends who are older than me, and I peep what they're going through as middle-aged black men.
Yes.
I don't hear that in Rick Ross's raps. I don't hear that in 47-year-old who has a fully gray beard, Jim Jones. We're both half Puerto Rican, so trust me, I don't hear that stuff in his raps.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to talk about him last. But yeah, I think that was the overall message. Now, that was just half of it. The problem, those two didn't go too far with D1 with their response back. The problem was when Jim Jones got on Sway in the Morning, and everybody saw that because that clip went viral.
Oh my God, we all saw it.
I ain't trying to hear that. I don't care what he's saying. Yeah, he could have reached out to me if he wanted to. And once again, he was trying to play him. Who is this kid? He's selling out shows. Nobody's booking you right now, Jim. I don't see you getting booked for shows. I see D1 getting booked for shows because he's showing the video footage. He's showing himself selling out shows in Atlanta. Do you have any music where people are booking you for shows right now? So you can miss us with he's clout chasing your name for fame. That's part one. Part two is where me and you talked about this off air. The whole, when he sees me, he better put his head down.
Just ignorance, man.
He better not hope that one of my cousins or nephews see him and want to smack a dread out his head. This is what Jim Jones is saying. I'm sorry. I'm not a gangster. I'm not a tough guy. I'm a civilian. But we got to call out the hypocrisy in that. I got some words and I know you got some words. We'll spend 5 minutes on this. The reason why that is problematic is, for number one, we got to protect our lights in our community. Let's take this out of hip hop. He will be the kid at the school that he needs to be protected because he's about to make it out the hood.
Yeah.
Outside of hip hop, this man is a school teacher and is verifiable. You can go look it up.
Yeah.
He's teaching kids. He's teaching kids. Why would you want to smack a teacher? Just outside of hip hop alone.
Something you didn't like.
What does that sound like? That sounds like the kid at the school with the IEP that just bugging the hell out for no reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That's one. Number two, if you are our age or older, and we already told you our ages 100 times on this podcast, we've been following hip hop for so long, we know all the stories. And we're not going to say all of them because we'll be here for too long. But if you are our age or older, then you remember a few situations that this individual has gotten himself in. We don't have to name names. I think you guys know where we're going with this. But when the Puerto Rican Suge Knight was chasing you around town, see, I didn't say his name. So I just referred to him about the Puerto Rican Suge Knight.
Hey.
When the Puerto Rican Suge Knight was chasing you and your affiliates around town for stuff that you got, because see, I'm gonna say this without saying it. A lot of your affiliates got in stuff because of you.
Facts.
A lot of them got their chain snatched because of you.
Yep.
Your cousins and nephews was nowhere to be found.
Nope.
Your man, the head honcho of the company of Dipset, got punched in the eye because of you.
Yep.
And he spoke about that. So I can say that because he called it out. Yeah, I got in an altercation with him.
Yep.
See, your man got punched in the eye because of you. Where was your cousin at then?
Yeah.
The leader of Dipset, Cameron, got punched in the eye because of you, Jim Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Was your cousin anywhere to be found? And that's just one incident. There's like 5 other incidents that us as middle-aged black men remember you being in, and you weren't talking tough to them people.
Jojo Capone.
See, I wasn't saying names.
He made it clear. I saw you. You ain't want none of that.
But you remember who was also rolling with them.
Yeah.
You know, his best friend, Saigon.
Yep. Saigon.
See, they was all around.
He was around.
I don't remember you talking tough to any one of them 3, and I'm just going to leave that as one situation. See, there's Gangsta Boot, there's Gangsta Lou.
Yes.
There's Mano, now that y'all best friends.
Yeah.
There's about 4 or 5 other situations, but I didn't appreciate how you had all the smoke for a Christian rapper who's a teacher, talking about he's clout chasing when he's actually doing shows and you're not. But you want to smack him in the head. But in 20 years, you didn't have the smoke for these people who are in the street like you. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I think that he needs I don't see, that's where the immaturity comes in. If D1 had said something super crazy, he would have been 1,000% right in saying what he said. The thing is when I'm looking at it is like, you know, what are you doing? You were supposed to be a leader. So anybody knows this. Even when you watch a lot of these gangster movies or gangster series, what's the first thing they say? War is bad for business.
Messes
right?
up the money.
So my whole thing is with this whole situation is it's bad for business, right? So you and D1, you got to say to the young dudes that didn't like what he said, so just say this under Jim, say, no, we not doing that. We gonna have a talk with him like, yo, you're gonna have to talk to us because we not doing this. You can't be on the radio. D1 might have been wrong in that perspective, but at the same time, where you're going with it, you're wrong too. You going with it with something that you shouldn't be going with it where, because maybe D1 might have somebody that you don't know that you ain't even gonna see coming. And last time I checked, just from a distance, I ain't seen too many cats like go missing or get hurt or do anything. I mean, other than what is it 6ix9ine?
Yeah.
6ix9ine. I mean, he probably scared of him.
But that's a whole different situation.
I don't. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say to you is that when he's over there saying like, yo, they might not like that and they might smack him and do all this and knock a dread out his head, and then what, Jim? Where does it go from there? Where does it go? There might be people around
because you don't think New Orleans got steppers.
He said somebody from New Orleans already called me.
Come on, Jim.
So what are you doing in the community of New Orleans for the people that call you? Like, are you fixing the community or something? Eric Thomas said the illest thing, and I'll never forget what he said. He says, yo, I came here today through the school, right? He was at a school. I forgot where community. It was like a bad area. He said, a rapper came through here last night in this city, so I don't see him here. He got all the money from the show, did everything. Is he here this morning? And left. Didn't
Took the resources out the community and bounced.
Don't know where he's at. So since you're like a hood legend and you have all this talent and the hood follows you and they're ready to ride for you, I just want to know what you're doing. And he says, and he made a good point. He said, you don't know who I do and what I help for and people I help. I understand that. I'm just looking around and you don't look right saying that. You don't look like a tough guy. I'm pretty sure there's people around in circles like, yo, you gotta stop talking, man.
No, because they want to be put on.
You gotta stop talking.
But yeah, that's that whole situation.
Well, let me say this. Can I say this much? I will say this. Hold on a second. What I will say is this. A lot of these rappers, a lot of them, they say and do things, and we've been in certain circles, and I'll never name no names unless you irritate me to a point. You're not really who you say you are, and you ain't got what you got. It meaning like when you clowning cats that's trying to, you're painting this picture like you got to go out and hustle, which is the correct message. But you're kind of telling them like, go out and hustle drugs. You ain't doing that, man. You ain't doing that.
Ain't been doing that for 20
You ain't been doing
years.
it. So you out here telling people, yo, hustle and do this and do this and do that. You're not doing that. You're not. So I don't paint this picture. One time, we ain't gonna say no names, somebody that's out in DVDs acting like they got it in the Benz and everything, I saw him riding a bike. How you riding a bike? Because you ain't got no money. Because you out here portraying an image and a lifestyle for 30 seconds instead of buying a building and getting residual income. You ain't rapping about that, though. And those label heads that's lying to you, gassing you up, telling we gonna give you money, act like this, and then when that buzz run out, they leave you hanging, you riding a bike.
Yeah.
You don't tell that part of the story in the song, do you?
For a few times for some undisclosed artists we will not name.
So I just want to say, man, like, I kind of get where Jim. I'm not saying I don't understand where he's coming from, but he's wrong. He's wrong. Whether or not you would it's like we're gonna talk about my man G, right? Mm-hmm. It's like with that. You know why that crew? You know, I had two crews. I had a crew up in Albany and a crew downstate, right? Mm-hmm. So they you know, the crew up here, they knew what we was good at doing. We ain't gonna speak about what we were doing, and I'm not gonna name them names. But they had my back too. They loved me too. Mm-hmm. But my crew down here was wild too. But also there was people in my camp that told me when I was wrong, when I didn't want to hear it. Like, yo, you wrong. You not, yo, hey, we not gonna roll with you on this. Like, they would have had my back had I really went and jumped in and did something stupid. But their point of making is, if you do this, this brings us all down. You're gonna hurt us in the process. A person that cares about you, they'll make you look at the whole chessboard. So back then I didn't get it. I just cared about them enough to say I ain't gonna do it because it's gonna pull you down. Mm-hmm. But looking back at it now, they were making me look at the whole chessboard. If you do this, this gets us in this situation. Then we got to do this situation, and I don't want to. Which I'm fine with doing it because with me, when I swing, I'm ready to deal with whatever comes with it. But I love my brothers enough to never pull them in that situation. So if it's gonna better them, I'll do it because I love them. That's who they are. So my whole thing is to these rappers, if you love the community or even if you love the people in your camp, you're making them move in a certain way. And even if you can't make the move, make them see the chessboard. I think that's the point that D1's making, that everybody is missing. You need to see the whole chessboard.
Perfect point.
That's what you need to see. And you're not seeing it and you're being cocky because, to be honest with you, whatever money you think you're making peanuts compared to the person who's really cutting the check. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
You dropping bars this episode, man.
So yeah, that's my man G inside. He's kind of smacking me upside my head right now.
So we got two more.
He's spewing out. Yeah,
we got two more hip hop kind of segments to talk about. Mm-hmm. You know, we got like a good hour in. You know, we gonna do some overtime.
I didn't even know that.
Now we gonna do some. Yo, Tyler, we gonna give you some extra bucks, man. So Andre 3000, we got to go here. Mm-hmm. Came out a few days ago, said he's going to release an album, and the hip hop community was like, oh, he's back, because we know that Outkast released the album umpteen years ago, and just correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't have a solo joint. They had Outkast, and Big Boy had a solo joint, but Andre didn't have a solo joint.
He did, but it was like some, the Hey Ya, I don't know.
I'm not talking about single, I'm talking about like a studio album.
Yeah. Didn't they dropped the album together, but it was both them going, doing their own thing on it.
So forgive me.
It was like a joint album. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I stand corrected, but it's been so long. What was it, 17 years or something like that?
Yeah, it's been a while, brother.
So everybody's like, oh, he's about to get back on his rapping. So the reason why I bring up Andre 3000 in this conversation, because we got some good hip hop this year. Mm-hmm. Nas dropped his second installment earlier in the year. We had Killer Mike rapping. Mm-hmm. We talked about Busta Rhymes dropping his album. Literally next week, Busta Rhymes dropped his album. Mm-hmm. All those dudes are in their late 40s or early 50s. Yeah. So when he said he was going to drop an album, I said, here goes the Grand Slam. Mm-hmm. Oh, we about to get on these young bulls' heads. Yeah. Yeah, y'all whole drilling and turning up is done once Andre drops. And then he said, oh, well, I just want to be honest with you guys. There's not going to be any beats. There's not going to be any bars. There's going to be me playing wind instruments. And I was like,
sad.
Okay.
Super sad.
So there's two sides to this coin. I'm going to be positive on one side, and then I'm going to offer some pushback, and then I'm going to allow you to interject. Since I used to hang around a producer, shout out to my homeboy Ra Raspy from the Bronx.
Schizo.
Crazy talented. I think he's one of those prodigies with music. He plays multiple instruments. I understand how music is made. Anytime you release a beat tape or anytime somebody plays live instruments, that's where songs are made. Stuff gets sampled. Look at the what's that record that French Montana released a while ago? It was like a big Bring Back New York record. It had a horn in it.
Oh my God, I know you're talking
And this
about.
is when Chinks was alive.
Yeah.
Back from the block.
Yeah, it had like the Lords of the Underground type beat. You know,
It had that L horn in it. The point I'm
Yeah.
making by bringing up that French Montana record, you see the importance of live instruments and the creation of hip hop.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the record, but real hip hop heads, when I talk about French Montana and that record with the horn, you know what I'm talking about. It's just I can't remember the name of the record. You see the influence and how live instruments can make a record, especially for hip hop. Another one, Future with Mask Off. That was a big record just a few years ago. The main instrument in that was a flute. So we don't know if Andre 3000 was ghost producing that song. So from an artistic standpoint, the positive in him releasing
Shot Caller.
Shot
That's
Caller,
what
thank
you're
you.
talking about, yes.
So before I get to that, so when French Montana released Shot Caller, the hardest part of that beat was the horn playing. As soon as the record came on, everybody was like, yo, we know where that horn is. We know who he sampled that record from.
Yep.
So
Sure
hold that. So then French Montana released Mask Off, and the whole beat is like a flute playing. We like, yo, that's an ill record, but the beat captures you. The point I'm making is we understand how hip hop music is being made and sampled from these beats. So when he releases a whole album, and I delved into it last night, the first record I got 5 minutes before I fell asleep. I'm like, there's going to be some producers that's going to take these flutes and create some crazy samples.
Right.
And we don't know what's going to come out of it 5 or 10 years from the line.
Right.
Dr. Dre could take it. You know how ill of a producer Dr. Dre is.
Yeah.
Coolin' Dre. J. Cole's a producer. Hit Boy. The Justice League. There's so many producers that can take these flutes and live instruments and create some of the illest hip hop songs that we ever heard of.
Right.
So I will give Andre 3000 that. That's a ultimate chess move.
Yeah.
It could be 20 years from the line. You might hear, oh, this artist done took Andre 3000 flute and it's a Grammy nominated record.
So go ahead. No.
So these flutes and live instruments that he played, we don't know where they're going to end up in the music sphere next year, 5 years, or 20 years down the line, or how many Grammy nominated songs it's going to produce. There's also meditation records on YouTube. I know people who like to meditate, who just like to hear that.
Yeah, no, I'm meditating. I do.
There's people in the gym that like to listen to certain type of music. There's games for that. There's apps for it. So we don't know how those live instruments are going to cross over in that genre. So that's the positive aspect. I will give them that. What are your thoughts? I got more, but I don't want to talk the whole time.
About Andre 3000 Flute album?
Yeah.
Do you really want me to give an answer? Because I'm not going to give a nice answer.
Come on, man. I'm not asking you to.
No. I mean, I don't.
Because I got some pushback too. Trust me, it's coming.
I don't care about him playing the flute. If that's what you want to go do, man, you should. I don't know. Go to the National Opera World. I don't know. Do something, man. What are you doing? I don't really care. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's a topic because I'm interested in what you're telling me about this story. I'm kind of looking like, oh. You want me to hit you with a flute or something? Like, understand? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? We are not. Let me tell you something, and please, because people are gonna try to be funny. What's he really know? Listen, I know about the whole Mozart, Marriage of Figaro theory, everything when music was categorized. I'm not even gonna go into that whole story.
See, I don't know how intelligent my boy is.
So what I'm saying is the point of what I'm making. Thank you. What I'm saying is the point of what I'm making is that it's just the problem I think was igging me about this is what you said. He's like, well, I'm 48 years old and I really can't rap about anything. Yes, you can, man. If you want to make an album about you playing a flute, that is evidence and proof right there that you can make songs about positive images, about people of color, because all at the end of the day, when you go listen to some of your music, it was very positive, very influential. Don't you dare tell me you can't rap about nothing. Really? You can rap about how you started going goofy and crazy after you dated Erykah Badu. Maybe you might want to rap about that and started playing the flute. Do. Maybe you might want to go do that. We would love to hear that story. Nobody ever talks about that. But maybe it's just me, man. I don't know.
You done took it somewhere else.
I'm sorry. Let me leave that alone. Let me just say this. There is a lot of stuff he could talk about. What happened? What happened to the Arista with L.A. Reid? What happened to you and Big Boy? What happened to why you changed up to the Hey Ya stuff? What happened to like why you dress the way you dress? What happened to what are you doing now with your life? I don't know. We would like to hear that. And rather than you playing a damn flute. That's just my opinion from a fan perspective.
Now, as a fan perspective, because we talked about the importance of Outkast and what they did, I'm with you. Because now here comes my pushback.
Okay.
Let's say you were going to give me a Flute album. You know how I could have marketed this where it would have went quadruple platinum? And it's probably still going to do numbers. I would have gave you all the Flute songs, but on the outro, I would have spazzed out on like 50 bars.
Right.
Just think about that. It would have been like a, what's it called? Trolling. That's what the kids call it. I would have trolled y'all. I would have been like, yeah, I ain't doing no raps. And it would have been all the flutes. And then I would have had bonus track. As soon as you to click bonus track, as soon as the track goes on, I'm spitting some of the illest stuff you ever heard of. And then people would have kept having to rewind that track over and over and over. You'd have got all the streams in the world just for rapping one verse. Here's the truth about the situation. And I think he alluded to in certain interviews. And I don't want to speak about other people's mental health.
Okay.
So I'll tread lightly.
Okay.
But he talks about how he has social anxiety. There was reports that came out years ago about how he really didn't like performing on stage at the height of their career. Like as soon as the record was over, he would allegedly like run off the stage.
Wow.
Like he didn't like touring. He like as soon as the record was over, I need to get out of here. Like I forgot what those type of people like to be secluded. So I don't want to talk about somebody else's mental health battle because that's not for me to say. And I think that's rude, but he put it out there. So a part of me feels like if he rapped on his album, he would have to tour again. A problem he doesn't want to have.
Right.
I would rather for him to be honest and say that because I'm with you. You have a lot of stuff to rap about. Nas just dropped the album. He's 50 years old.
Yeah.
You're going to tell Nas he don't know what he's talking about. He was trying to be some 28-year-old. No, he rapped about age-appropriate content. Killer Mike is in his late 40s or early 50s. You could hear him talking about him losing his mother. Him basically, a lot of his content was being black in Atlanta and, brotherhood and stuff like that. That was the message for Killer Mike's album. And shout out to Killer Mike because he's nominated for a Grammy and I hope he fucking wins it. We know what Busta Rhymes is going to give us. He's 50 years old.
Yeah, I love Busta, man.
So I guess the point I'm making is for my pushback, I feel like his team, I don't know who he's managed by. I don't know what label this is. I don't know the PR situation. I think it was a ball drop because you're missing a moment in hip hop.
Yeah.
We're having a moment.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why am I saying that. Jay talks about when he dropped his debut album in 96 or 97. What year was that, A? 96.
Yeah.
He said, when I dropped my debut album, go look at who dropped at the same time as me.
Biggie.
He named names.
Yeah,
He was like Common. He was like, yo, all these people dropped. He said, then when I dropped again, X dropped the double album, or X or Ja Rule dropped the double album in the same year.
Yeah. It was the hard. Yeah, it was X, Ja Rule. Yeah, it was Lauryn Hill. They all dropped on that day. Brand Nubian. I never forgot that.
So go with me on this.
Yeah.
Was that not a moment of hip hop?
Yeah.
When Jay-Z dropped his album, he said, I had to figure it out because look at all these names who dropped.
Flip Mode Squad. They all came out.
What was happening this year? We were having a moment in hip hop.
Yeah.
Nas dropped his last installment of his album with him and Hit Boy. Drake just hit us with an uppercut. He just dropped last night. Young Jeezy just dropped. I'm going to talk about Young Jeezy next. That was a great album. Busta Rhymes, we were having a moment in hip hop because what were we talking about a couple podcasts ago? They were saying hip hop sales are down 40%.
Yeah.
They were saying we're damn near close to being an indie label. I mean, an indie genre in the same manner that rock did back in the 80s. Because people forget rock was mainstream and then it kind of went indie.
Yeah. Yep.
We need every ounce of hip hop right now for the next 10 years to keep it from not going to an indie genre.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like if Andre 3000 would have gave us a few bars, that would have been a grand slam if I'm giving you a baseball analogy.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It would have been a knockout the park year for hip hop. We haven't had any main number ones on Billboard for hip hop. We haven't had any main number one albums chart according to them. We needed Andre 3000 rapping, and I just feel like him not rapping, you can give me all the conscious, oh, he's changing the frequency, vibration of music with his flutes. And because I saw those posts and like, all right, guys, I get it. Y'all super conscious, but you dropped the ball for hip hop.
Yeah.
The flutes might turn into hip hop when a producer samples it, but you as a rapper dropped the ball in hip hop. That's my pushback on that.
Okay.
Shout out to Andre 3000, but now I have to put you in the same category as Lauryn Hill.
Yo.
I don't got time to talk about Lauryn Hill, so we'll just exit
we're
left.
gonna leave that alone. Yeah,
Talking about age appropriate music, Young Jeezy.
Yeah.
Young Jeezy dropped the album.
Okay.
I might forgive, but I don't forget. And we saw the press run with him doing the interview with Lauryn Hill. And it was kind of therapy, him talking about what he went through, him talking about a situation with his cousin that he actually rapped about, because he rapped about that on a record. It showed growth because we know what we got from Jeezy. Growing up, like that was my era when Jeezy was dropping those records and I was running in the club. Like people was running around with those snowman shirts. And you used to get suspended for wearing those snowman shirts.
Really?
So if you're old enough, if you're my age and you went to high school in the early 2000s, you remember what happened in certain schools if you showed up with a snowman shirt. Sometimes you got sent home. So it's interesting to see his growth as a middle-aged man who his relationship was public. He's going through a divorce right now. I don't know if he dated the girl off The View. He's going through a divorce, and now he put out an album. And to me, it showed, for the subject matter, great introspect. Like he's bearing it all. The second half of the album, he's really talking about some personal stuff. He's talking about I didn't know his mother passed away, because you know these guys are sometimes private. Yeah. Talked about his mother passing away, and hopefully she's looking down at him about how he fixed some mistakes, you know, because he talked about how he used to serve his uncle and how he used to serve it. Like it's a great reflection album of a mature man saying, yo, I'm growing up and I hope I can right some of those wrongs. Right. From your perspective, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to Jeezy album, but just from what I'm telling you, how important is it for somebody like Jeezy to show that growth in their music?
That's big, man. That's big, especially after what we just got done talking about. Like, you know, he's kind of sharing bars and personal stories. I think too, also it's like a therapy. I always thought a lot of rap albums were like our therapy and our story lessons. I think a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's big, that he's sharing a lot of personal stuff on the album, because a lot of people can go through that. You got to remember, a lot of the things that we talk about in the culture, we always talk about how the culture sometimes is misguided. Even, you know, we're the bravado, which is needed because we need to be strong black men, strong black characters. But at the same time, we need to open up, and the message needs to be sent. It's okay to open up. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to just say, get it off your chest. It's not okay to keep it all inside. So I think that, you know, at times, man, that's kind of a big deal and a big thing that he's doing that, you know. I think because, you know, I mean, it's going to be hard for you to keep talking about the snowman. We're really going to be looking at you crazy.
That was the point. Yeah.
We're going to be looking at you because I don't think your son is selling snow.
You know. So if you guys are into production, the second half of the album, so the first half is produced by various producers, but the second half from 16 on is produced by the Justice League. Okay. And my God, the Justice League went in. They pulled some stuff out of Jeezy. This is what you want to hear from production when a producer pulls something out of you. And there's a record that, like, I'm going to play a few bars from it where he's bearing his soul, like what I was telling you about where he was going through stuff. So the record on the track produced by the Justice League is What I Gotta Do. And from the beat to the subject matter to what they pulled out of him was like, yo, this is grown man Jeezy. Yeah. This is Mr. Jenkins. So I'm going to play a few bars, and if I have to edit it out, so be it. But for the podcast, I'll play a few bars.
You want to play it on here? You can Bluetooth to it if you want.
I don't.
It's up to you.
I'm just gonna show it on the camera. So I got it on Tidal.
Okay.
The beat already, when I heard the beat, I was like, yo, he about to go in. This is that grown people music. He talking about his cousin on his record. So that first half of that record, he's talking about how when he started getting into the game, it was his cousin who put him on, but his cousin sold him some dirty work. And he had a falling out with his cousin. So obviously the title, I Might Forgive, But I Don't Forget. He's trying to get past forgiving his blood family member who did him so dirty, who put him in a certain position that could have went bad for him and both of them. And then there's some introspect at the end of the record. I'm not going to play the end of the record, but he's talking about, you know, his mother passing away, and hopefully he cleaned up some of the stuff he did as a younger man, that hopefully she could look at him in a different manner for when he gets to heaven. That's the hip hop I want to hear, man.
Yeah.
Stop telling me about Rollie on my wrist. And you already know the rapper I'm referencing without saying the name. If I say Rollie on my wrist, who am I talking about?
Yeah, we know you're talking about Meek Mill and Rick Ross.
But when Jeezy, who has put out multiple albums, who's in his mid-40s, who's doing a lot of stuff in his community, because he's very business savvy. He's buying properties and businesses and so forth. When he could write records like this, showing introspect of what he went through as a young man and how it's coming full circle, like you said, it's therapy for him. He wants to forgive. He's not going to forget. You know, I'm like, yo, hip hop is really grown up. We in our 50th year of hip hop. So I played that record because I just want to say, like, as somebody who's in his mid 30s, I can appreciate that part of hip hop. You ain't got to flash your phantom in my face. You ain't got to flash your mansion in my face. You can talk about some real life stuff, because as quiet as it kept, I went through something similar. I didn't sell drugs. But I had a situation with a certain family member that went sideways, and I'm like, all right, I got to forgive him. That's my blood family member. So, you know, just connecting with the artist, like, all right, you know, this is growth. This is where I want to see hip hop goes for our older veteran artists. Go ahead.
Let me ask you something though. You talk about with Meek Mills and making those records. Is it because they made that one record, or is it because their whole album is that record? Like, if they make party records, is it okay? They can.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we need club music. Because the club scene is dying. We need club records. But like I said, right now, if you jump on any form on social media, if you jump on Instagram, if you jump on TikTok, if you jump on Twitter, Facebook, nobody's quoting any material from Meek Mill and Rick Ross's album. People start quoting bars from Jeezy. People start talking about the production Jeezy got. People's going to be quoting Drake's album, which I'm going to talk about next. Hell, people are talking about the Flutes. Why is nobody talking about Meek Mill and Rick Ross?
They didn't do anything to push it.
Yeah, they did. They did a press run. Nobody cares because it's the same material. That's the point I'm making.
But we used to hearing Meek Mill's at least on a mixtape or something.
Yeah. You know, so shout out.
Let me say something. I could throw a shot. Let me say this. You're gonna know what I'm talking about. It is the same music they're talking about. You know what? It just hit me. I remember when somebody did something crazy, and they ran up on somebody, and they had no problems playing tough guy. And when somebody else that they had a problem with some in their camp saw them, you ain't seem to want to be a tough guy. I know I saw that firsthand. I'm just saying. So what we talking about, I'm not saying no names. I just remember you went to a party, you saw somebody, you jumped out the car, you looking like a tough guy, your man went and tried to swing on him and all that.
Yeah.
Then you was at an award show.
on stage.
Oh, not that one.
Oh,
that
not
was
that?
another
Oh,
situation.
okay. My
You
bad.
was at another show, and your man had your arm around you. Why you ain't swing? All that stuff you be talking on the record. Why didn't you get up and swing? Because you know you broke your jaw. That's why. See, it's okay when you're talking that tough guy stuff. You know, let me say this, and I'm not dissing him. I'm just saying, and you're gonna know what I'm talking about. I never forgot when an artist had a problem with a certain artist. They said, why? Because somebody talked about somebody's mother. I can tell you right now, you're gonna get your feet lifted off the ground. You bring up my mother, it's on site. We can never have a conversation until we had that fair one, right? You made a comment, but I remember when this initially started, you said we saw each other on the red carpet and we knew what it was. And you went home and made a record? I couldn't have been an interviewer. I'd be like, so you saw him on the red carpet, it looked like it was a little aggressive, and you went and made a record about it?
Yeah.
You ain't going to swing and be, I'm the boss because I can fight. No, your big fat hippo behind the side. Let me. I take that back. I apologize. Your so-called tough persona didn't come out that day. Your man got swung around. Your tough persona still ain't came out. Somehow this dude's walking around and you proclaim this, and this. This is what D1's talking about. You are not who you say you are, man.
And this is why I said nobody's quoting material.
That's why, you know what one guy will name? That's why 50 Cent ain't really scared of nobody. That's why. Because you not going to do what you say you going to do. Mm-hmm. He's still walking around.
Comfortably.
Facts.
By himself.
Facts.
He's been seen in Jersey by himself.
Facts. Yeah.
So shout out to Jeezy.
So I ain't got nothing to say. People play tough, and maybe that's why the records ain't selling, because we know you're not who you say you are. That's why. But I like your music. It's entertaining.
So going over to Drake. Drake dropped the album, Scary Hour Edition for all the dogs. So he announced that he was retiring. I'm sorry, not retiring. He was gonna pull back for a couple years because he said he had some health stuff.
Who, Drake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you hear this?
No.
He's like, yo, I'm a fade to black. You know, I got some health stuff. I really want to take care of myself, and I want to go enjoy life, and I'll come back with some better music. That was like a few months ago. Then Joe Buttons got on his podcast, was like, don't know what you're doing, but you need to start rapping, buddy. You need to start rapping that real ish.
Why?
This was a review of the album he dropped a few months ago.
Oh, okay, got you.
Because he was saying the same thing to Drake. Because again, Drake is in my age group, mid-30s. Like you're not rapping age-appropriate music. So I think that kind of bullied him in a way. Said, I need to come back and start talking my stuff.
Yeah,
I need to come back and show y'all before I take a year off that I still can get at y'all. So from start to finish, from Red Button all the way to Evil Ways, where he's teaming up with J. Cole, he was spitting that stuff. And guess what? I'm going to be straight up before I play this record. Pusha T, you got to come out of retirement. Because he went for your head topping Wicked Man. Yeah. He was saying he done said the Clips reference about 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And then he said, oh, you talking about my man 40, tick, tick, tick. He's sick. You remember that record he put out? The song of Adidon, where he was referencing his man 40 being sick, having immune disease. He said, yeah, that sounds funny, but you're broke in real life. Like he was, and Pusha been saying, well, he need to say my name. You need to get to a studio right now, Pusha. I know you heard the record. Get to a studio right now. For you young cats out there, Pusha T went at him. They've been going back and forth, and Pusha got the best of him on that song Adonai. I can't pronounce it. Pusha T kind of got the best of him. I guess Drake was like, nah, I need to really rap. Let me play some bars, man. It's called Wick Man. And he's talking to him so softly. Empty clips. That rapper was joking tick tick, but he really broke his statistic. Empty clips. You need to get to a studio right now, Pusha. I wouldn't take that if I was you.
Yo, that's crazy.
And he went on. My favorite, I think everybody's favorite track, he was trading bars with J. Cole. They was going back and forth, something crazy with no hook or bridge, of course. It was just them trading bars. That's what we want to see. Because they did First Person Shooter on the last album. That was a dope record. Then they teamed up again for this record. So you got J. Cole, who some people are saying for my generation, he's like top 10, maybe top 5 for some people. And then you got Drake, and they just going at it. So I like the space of hip hop we in. Like, people are outside of Andre 3000 are dropping bars, not flutes. Get that flute shit out of here. But are dropping bars. So I wanted to highlight Jeezy. I wanted to highlight Drake. And then next week is Busta Rhymes, Blockbuster, man. So hip hop is in a good space right now. Facts. We done did an hour and a half of hip hop, man. This is like, really? You know, we gonna transition into our next segments. You know, we doing some overtime over here, but we really love hip hop. So I thought it's appropriate that we went in today doing some album reviews, talking some hip hop topics. There's some other stuff we're gonna talk about later on, man. So transitioning out of hip hop, we got a few minutes to talk about some local politics. Just a few, 5 minutes. So this year was for local elections, for the general elections. And I just want to highlight, because I did vote upstate New York. And although I'm not a member of the Harlem district, Dr. Yusef Salaam from the Central Park 5 won in his district. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about it, because I thought that was very big. It's something within our culture, outside of hip hop, that I think all of us know about.
Right.
Dr. Yusef Salaam is from the Central Park 5. If you're too young, just to catch you up to speed, the Central Park 5 was falsely accused of doing a crime in the early 90s. Got sent to jail for numerous years. Your boy Donald Trump took out ads and did a whole bunch of horrific stuff. Time passed. They won their settlement. Then that was my Siri, but time passed. They won a settlement. They've been fighting for justice, telling their story. They changed their name to the Exonerated 5 because they got their names back, which I think was important. But now Dr. Yusef Salaam he won in the Harlem district. What are your thoughts on that?
That's big, man. I think it goes to show like what we need to be doing. We need to be focused. It's like what Dame Dash was talking about. He was saying, like, you know, we don't really get taught to be politicians or learn politics in, you know, our neighborhood and our community and what we need to be doing. You need somebody in your district that looks like you and that knows where you're coming from. If anybody can, he can, you know. So I think it's a big deal. Because, you know, when they focus on politics, people keep thinking on politics that's up there with the government is what you should be, too, also. But in your own community is the most important one, because they can do whatever they want up top. But if the bottom is
the
where
local
politicians is what affects it. So if you're not in on that, it's going to be a problem. So I think it's big that on this level that we have him in that spot, because you can't find any better person for that position.
So my reason for bringing up this topic is I'll never get on here and tell you guys who to vote for. I believe you guys have the freedom to vote for whoever you want to vote for. I'm just going to say, like my partner said, vote locally. There's a lot that can be done locally.
Facts.
You good? You falling asleep? It's past his bedtime.
You're a funny guy. That's never that.
I'm gonna read off his platform, Doctor, and I'm emphasizing Doctor. I'm showing him his respect. I'm gonna read off his platform on his website, harlemforyusef.com. I'm gonna read for what he stands for and what he's fighting for. So the headline is an equity and empowerment agenda. That's a part of his platform. If elected to serve as member of New York City Council, representing my home heart of Harlem, I pledge to fight to move our community forward through an equity and empowerment agenda, a set of policies, values grounded in the faith of fellow Harlemites to determine the future of ourselves and our families, to reflect our history, culture, and promise of a world famous village. We all know the history behind Harlem and the culture behind it. housing is a human right. We're going through a housing crisis all across America. So that's on his website of fighting for that. Economic justice. We all justice and safety. So this is stuff that the average citizen in Harlem, outside of Harlem, especially if you're black, are dealing with. So I'm proud of him, even though I don't live in Harlem. I think it's a big step for the Exonerated Five. I think it's a big step for us in local politics. I wish that brother nothing but the best, and hopefully whatever he sets to run out on his platform, that his team can help him accomplish it for the District of Harlem. So that was my 5 minutes talking local politics. I'm never going to tell you guys who to vote for, but please vote locally.
Facts.
Now we're in the sports, man. Let's get busy.
Sports.
Let's get busy, man.
All right. No.
You want to jump in the NFL? I see you with your Atlanta Falcons jersey on.
Yeah. This, by the way, too, as a side note, and we'll get this at the end. Like, this is from my man Gordon, my man G, because he used to wear the jerseys. Okay. The football jerseys with the fatigue hat. I got my Falcons hat, so we're going to work with that. Yeah, you want to, where you want to start with that?
Just for the people watching, when we talking sports, we got a few professional topics as far as the NFL and the NBA, and we got a few collegiate topics.
Right.
We got some time left. Okay. So do you want to start in the NFL or NBA?
We start in the NFL.
So starting with the NFL, you talked about how you have a few words for your Falcons. So here's the alley-oop. Take it away, buddy.
With Atlanta Falcons, I think we like what you were talking. We talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we haven't talked about the Falcons. 6-3. Yeah, we're 4-6. So the Falcons, who are 4-6 at this point, they were 4-3. It was looking okay. They drafted Bijan Robinson, and that looked good at the beginning of the year. We started 2-0. Ever since then, we've been 2-6. So what ends up happening is, Desmond Ridder, who was a starting quarterback for the season, it wasn't that he was messing up. He was making mistakes, but it's typical mistakes as a young kid. And I'm not trying to say he's a kid. He's just a young man. What did you think this guy was going to do? Take us to the promised land his first year? Joe Burrow didn't do that. He went 3-13. Right, which we'll talk about that at another time. If we have time left in the segment. So anyway, long story short, we get to 4-3. Somehow, we decide that Desmond. What game what was the first game? The first game that made us look bad was the Tennessee Titans game. So for people who don't know, the Tennessee Titans, which I'm gonna go off on a side note about that in a minute too. The Tennessee Titans came into the game and they were starting their quarterback Will Levis, right? Rookie quarterback they drafted in the second round for this season. First game out. You should see the Falcons defense licking their chops. They should say, yo, we're going to run all types of stuff on this kid. The Falcons lose the game. And let me pull up the score. What was they lose the game, right? Let me pull up the score because I had it up here. And they lose the score. Oh my goodness, where's the score at? Yeah, 28-23, right? What I think was bothering me about that game was you lost the game 28-23 to a rookie quarterback that was his first game. Do you know what he was doing in the game? He kept throwing bombs at DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know, maybe after the first time he threw it, maybe you might want to stop playing zone. But no, not the Falcons. They decided to keep playing zone. So somehow he keeps going to DeAndre Hopkins. They don't, some reason, understand maybe you should roll your coverage over there and do it. Now, I could go all in depth about this, but what was embarrassing is they lost that game. They took Desmond Ridder out of the game, and they put in Taylor Heineke, and Heineke was a better fit. I'm going to say this because people keep saying that the offense runs better with Taylor Heineke. Well, Taylor Heineke's had about 6 or 7 years. Really? That's what we're doing? You're comparing Desmond Ridder for his... What was it, 6? I think it's 4th or 5th game compared to Taylor Heineke 7 years. Really? Never mind, the defense is horrific. So the defense was having issues. Then you go on to the next game. They play Minnesota. Minnesota comes in. They were beating Minnesota. This kid, Joshua Dobbs, comes in, who has just left Arizona the week before. He only had been in Minnesota for 5 days. came into in Atlanta. Now they lost that game in Tennessee at Tennessee's place. He comes into Atlanta in the Georgia Dome and beats the Falcons, right? Comes back and beats them, putting up points, running all over the place. I think that's when Grady Jarrett tore his ACL, their best defensive player. They lost that game 31-28. And as if that's not embarrassing enough, then Kyler Murray comes in the next week. It's his first game back of the season. First game back. And they come in and they beat the Falcons. That's 3 straight losses. And that was Taylor Heineke got injured, but I don't care, man. I don't want to hear that because we still lost the game when Taylor Heineke was playing against Minnesota. So it doesn't really matter. So now the Falcons sit at 4-6. And I guess they're talking about, Arthur Smith, his job is coming to grips and doing whatever. I don't really know what they're going to do. But at the end of the day, I don't really see them going. I mean, because people are saying the Falcons could be the dark horse. They can win and they can do. Y'all lost to 3 different guys that just started. Joshua Dobbs got to Minnesota 5 days ago. So how much of the system could he really have learned from the Vikings? And he came in there and beat y'all. Will Levis came in there and beat y'all. Now let me circle back around to that. Let me tell you about that. So if you're not really a Falcons fan or something like that, it's hard to watch every NFL game. So being that I watch the Falcons, I kind of knew. But I knew about the Tennessee situation. Let me tell you, there's a black quarterback there, right? Mm-hmm. Malik Willis. He comes in. He got drafted high last year. Not high, but he got drafted high enough. I don't know what's going on with him in Tennessee. He came in the first play of the game, and somebody hiked the snap over his head. He missed the snap. The Tennessee fans were booing him. The Tennessee fans were booing the hell out of him. I was like, what did this kid do, right? So Will Levis comes out during some type of play. I think he got hurt or something like that. Well, Malik Willis comes back in, and they booing him again. They're booing this kid the minute he gets on the field. I don't know what's going on in Tennessee with him, but he's got to get out of there. They're like literally. Now let me tell you the kicker, and you say, hey, why are you bringing this up? There were reports that Tannehill, right, who was the initially really starting quarterback, had made it clear that he was not going to teach Malik Willis anything. He was not going to help him produce it, further himself as a quarterback. He wasn't going to help him. Will Levis came in and he said, I'm going to do everything I can do to help this kid. Don't know. That sounds a little funny to me. So this young black kid you didn't want to help. Now this guy, the guy comes in, you're willing to go. Now I don't know what that's about. And I'm not saying that I'm not calling it, but if it quacks like a duck and sounds like a duck, damn it is a duck. So I don't know.
I was about to say something,
but Tannehill wants to sit up there, and now he wants to be all goo goo gaga for Will Levis. One, he don't outperform anything you doing. I'm not defending Tannehill because they took to give you an idea. I know you don't follow every team, but A.J. Brown, they let him walk out the door. He's with the Eagles. You see where the Eagles went when he got there last year, right? Okay.
Sure enough did.
So the point I'm making is that they took his best weapon away. But for whatever reason, Tannehill didn't want to help Malik Willis or whatever. And Malik Willis has had a tough time down there. I don't know what this kid has done to make everybody hate him, but I highly doubt it's going to line him. That's one of what I'm saying. Now let me get back to the Falcons. The Falcons are kind of getting everything they deserve. You wanted to go and you wanted to run and you wanted to and Terry Fontenot, who I think that's his name, is the GM, and he wanted to go get Arthur Smith, which Arthur Smith had no credentials. What is the credentials? The Tennessee Titans? What had the Tennessee Titans won in years? Now, if you want to go get somebody from the Rams, I get it. If you want to get somebody from the Chiefs, I get it. If you want to go get somebody from a Tom Brady-led thing, I get it. But don't you dare tell me that Arthur Smith was the better candidate. Let me give you an example. I know the Washington Commanders are in the best situation, but Sam Howell's in his second year, like Desmond Ridder. Sam Howell's numbers are way better because Eric Bieniemy's there teaching him and developing that kid.
You notice how the criticism of Eric Bieniemy has got quiet recently?
Super facts.
Because in the first couple of weeks, everybody's like, oh, it doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing. Now that same criticism from all you what's that dude? Because he got the same name as me, Deshaun McCoy.
Yeah.
Now all that criticism from McCoy and everybody else is kind of quiet on Eric Bieniemy. Go ahead.
So Bieniemy, no, they were looking at the Washington Commanders' record. They weren't looking at and
they were trying to. McCoy has a problem, and I'm not going to take up time talking about McCoy and him. Shady McCoy and him, but he was trying to lump it. It wasn't just the record. He was trying to talk about how, I know how he is in the locker room. He probably doesn't have the guys in the locker room and da-da-da-da-da. Go ahead.
He's got 2 Super Bowl rings, though. I know you didn't get one without him. Just want to bring that up. Because they had you in Philly and you ain't never got to the Super Bowl. You went to Buffalo and you ain't do too much there. And then you ain't get to a Super Bowl. So you didn't get to a Super Bowl till you were with Tom Brady. And you ain't get to a Super Bowl until you were with Eric Bieniemy and the Chiefs. So I can't listen to nothing you saying. That's one. Two, my point going back to circling back around, Eric Bieniemy was the perfect candidate. I had said it then. They need to bring this guy in.
Talking about him for
years. And they went with Arthur Smith, and I am all for because usually when the coach goes, the general manager goes with him because you the one that picked that guy. Terry Fontenot can go.
It's time to clean house.
Get out. Go. You can go. You can go with your little Arthur Smith with your 4-6. For him right now to save his job, they got to make the playoffs. How you going to make the playoffs? You can't even beat guys that got to another team within 5 days. You can't even beat a second-round quarterback that just got there and it was his first game. You can't beat a guy that was out for the whole year last year and came back in his first game and beat you. Your ass can go. You can go. I don't want to hear no more. I know was Arthur Blank, yes. I know he's a patient man. He has to go. He has to go. I don't want to hear that these guys are playing hard. I don't care. It is now 3 years of the same thing. And remember what I said. Just think about if we had thought about after Tom Brady. That division is weak. You got Carolina who's trying to rebuild with that rookie quarterback. They only got one win. New Orleans is kind of up in the air because, they got – I forgot who the kid's name is that they're riding behind, but I think he's injured or whatever. He's not doing that great. They're like up and down New Orleans. And you got Tampa Bay who's got Baker Mayfield, and I think they're hardly winning. So if we would have been on top and thinking about building with Fontenot, wish he would have did, we would have been in a great place. But because you want to go rolling with Arthur Smith, who wants to run the ball, which is great, you wanted to build Desmond Ridder. You listened to the whole Marcus Mariota thing. That went in the toilet. You blame Marcus Mariota. You couldn't protect Matt Ryan. You ran him out of town. Mariota, you ran out of town after. Said we're going to roll with Ridder. And then you benched Ridder and brought in Taylor Heineke. At some point, there's too many guys moving, and you the only one that's not moving. He's got to go, and you need to go right with him. Arthur Blank has to do one or two things. One, he's got to fire Arthur Smith because that's not going to work anymore. And he either needs to fire Terry Fontenot, or what he can say to Fontenot is, I'm going to give you one more time. You better figure it out. And we're not going through a 3 or 4 year process. I don't want to hear about it. I want results, and I want them now. You were in here for 3 years with this guy. We ran Matt Ryan out of here. We brought in Marcus Mariota, and that was the wrong thing. We ran Marcus Mariota out of here, and we said we're going to roll with Desmond Ridder, who we drafted. That doesn't seem to be working, and now you're rolling with Taylor Heineke because you wanted an insurance policy. Let me tell you something. If you got to bring in a quarterback as Taylor Heineke just to make sure that just in case Ridder's not ready, that already tells me what's going to happen this season. And your ass should have been out the door the minute you told me that. You got to go. You see what happened in L.A., right? Mm-hmm. I'm not L.A., Las Vegas, right? What did they do? Josh McDaniels, yeah, we not playing this game.
Bye-bye.
We're not playing this game. Like, if you want to stick with the New England way, Bozo, go right ahead. We see what they're doing.
Shout out to Antonio Pierce.
Shouts to him, too. I hope they do very well. Because now you got guys in there believing and ready to play.
Yepper.
Now you don't got them crying. That whole thing, let me tell you about that real quick, and not to go sidetrack. They keep talking about the Patriot way. That was never the Patriot way. It was the Tom Brady way. And let me tell you what it was. It was Belichick trying to run the show the way he ran it, but the only reason you went along with it was because of Brady. So what I've heard from reporters that have been, I know a reporter that's been in the locker room, what I heard was Brady kind of talks to you that, yo, man, don't worry about dude. We going to do what we do. I got you. You get what I'm saying? I'm going to roll with you. You see what's going on there now. When they trying it without Brady, they ain't listening. And the players are getting tired. Matt Patricia tried to bring that to Detroit. And Stafford, it was so bad. When Stafford said, he told the Lions, if you want to get rid of me, if we want to make a change, just don't send me to New England. Right? Josh McDaniels, this is his third job. And within half a season, you got to go. We want you out of here. You get what I'm saying? So I just think like it is what it is. I'm not sidetracking, but to make a long story short, circle back around. I feel bad because Arthur, he's gonna have to clean house. He's gonna have to restart from scratch. Again. You dropped the ball. Terry Fontenot dropped the ball. He brought in a guy that wasn't a proven winner and you thought was going to do well. What? Really? Come on, man. We didn't make no play for A.J. Brown. Some reason Philly did. Don't know how they got that. No. Shouts out. I mean, we got a lot of talent. We got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. The offensive line is okay. We got Grady Jarrett, Calais Campbell, AJ Terrell.
Do you think they can be? Do you think there's any possibility of playoffs this year?
They can make a run for the last spot of a wild card.
Okay.
But they're going to have to win out. Or at least, okay, so there's 10 games. There's 18. I think there's 18, 19 games. It's 18. No, 19 games. Mm-hmm. Right? 17 games, I'm sorry. But there's 18 weeks or something like that. Whatever. So there's 17 games. We're 4-6. You're gonna have to win out, and you only got 4 wins. It ain't like you're 5-5, like Buffalo, which we'll talk about next. It ain't like you're 5-5, and you're right in the middle. You're 4-6, so you're gonna have to win, 7 games, and that's to ensure you'll get in the playoff spot. Mm. Now, mind you, there's not a lot of top teams, but you have Dallas, you have Philly, you have Detroit, you have Seattle. You have and there's only only 8 teams. You have Seattle. You have what's the other teams? Oh my God, what's the other team? Because I said the West and Seattle, right? Mm-hmm. And there's another team in the West. Seattle, not the Rams, but there's not Arizona. There's one more team I'm missing. San Francisco, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the top team, one of the top teams to be picked. It's just, and I think there's another team I'm not thinking about right now. The point I'm making is those are the teams. That's 5 teams I named. That's already automatically going to get in. That's not including your division winner. That's if you don't win the division. So it's slim the chance. Let me put it to you this way. It's 80-20. 80 they ain't going to make it, and 20 they are.
Okay, basically a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the next team before we switch and go to the NBA and then finish our topics off. The Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
You said this a few podcasts that you believe their window is closed. And I remember we put this up on YouTube and we had some interesting comments under that video.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were talking about and X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. So I want from your perspective, is there a crack left in that window for the Buffalo Bills, or is that shut?
Now that Burrow's injured, it is. There's a crack. That's about all.
There's a tiny crack in that window for the Buffalo Bills.
Let me say this about the Bills. Did you want to ask me something, or
that was it?
The Bills have a chance, but I said their window's closed. You hear these analysts talk about the window's closed. No, it's already closed. What do you mean it's closing? It's closed. Let's just say the Bills win out and they get to the playoffs. There's Kansas City, there's Baltimore, there's Miami. You see what Tyreek Hill's doing, even though they smacked Miami. There's Baltimore, Kansas City, Miami. Don't remember Jacksonville's coming. You got the Chargers with Herbert. You got oh my goodness. You got damn near the whole AFC North, with the exception of Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. You have Cleveland, and I don't care what they say, PJ Walker's a better quarterback than what they're giving him credit for. You have Cleveland and you have Pittsburgh, right? Mm-hmm. These are all the teams you got to face if you get in the playoffs. Even if you have a home game, good luck. You know what I'm saying? Even if you have a home game. That's just one thing. You know the other element is Josh Allen is a turnover machine. I really think the Bills took. Let me tell you another reason. Let me tell you the reason why I don't think their window's closed. One, McDermott took over. He I don't know what happened with him and Leslie Frazier, but he took over. The defense that was number 1 ranked is now number 16. That's one. 2, you got Stephon Diggs, who's irritated. And he's already acknowledged last season that he thought the window was closing. And I'm telling him it's closed. You saw him on the sideline ranting at the end of the playoff game.
Yeah, I saw some weird social media stuff,
You saw him reading. His brother tweeted after Monday night and said, yo, you need to get up out of there, right? He made it clear that he's frustrated. You see him getting frustrated on the sideline. I don't know if you watched this last game. They didn't even go to him on the last drive. They went away from him. They're not even going to him. Then they lose the game because they kept 12 men. They were going to win that game. And the guy had 12 guys on the field on a special teams field goal. And if anybody knows, that is like the most dumbest thing that can happen. That's never supposed to happen. They fired their offensive coordinator the next day, which I don't know what he had to do with it. So that was clearly a thing of telling Stephon Diggs, we got your back. I think he's just signed a big deal, so it's hard to run him up out of there. But it's over. I hate to say it's over. It's over. I know Bills fans don't want to hear it.
Upstate New York.
Over. It is over.
Western New York and upstate New York. We're holding tight.
Yeah.
Western New York. I'm
over.
with you as upstate New York. We're holding tight, but my boy's saying it's over, man.
It's over. It's that window of opportunity of them saying, well, we're looking to see what before it was the Chiefs and the Bills. We want to see what they're going to do through the whole season to get to each other, to meet each other, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's what the Chiefs are going to do and who's going to get in their way now. That's what we're looking at this season for right now. And the thing is that, like I said, Jacksonville's a threat. The AFC North is a threat. But Buffalo ain't in that conversation. That's just what it is. And now, mind you, let me put this in your head. Ain't they building that new stadium?
Yep.
And that's what you're gonna walk in with that? You're gonna walk. That's you did all this to get this new stadium, right? Sorry. You did all this to get this new stadium, and that's what you're gonna walk in with. That disgruntled wide receiver, the turnover machine, Josh Allen, a number 16 ranked defense, and Miami looking like they about to go up. The only reason you ain't even worse than what you are right now is because the Jets are that bad without Aaron Rodgers, and New England is just collapsing right before our eyes. That's the only reason why you're not in the bottom.
So it sounds like he gave Atlanta Falcons 80-20. It sounds like he's giving them 70-30.
The Bills?
Yeah.
The worst they'll do is make the playoffs. And that's all they're going to do. Remember what I said? I think you broke that down. I don't know if you broke that clip away from separate from the podcast, but remember, if you do it, if for all the people that watch our podcast, go back and hear what I was saying. How many times are we going to keep doing this? 11-5, 10-6, and then go to the playoffs and then crap. Yeah. How many times are you going to keep doing that? So at some point, you're going to have to acknowledge it's not. And when I say it's over, it's just over to you being a top team. You're going to have to go through KC to go to the Super Bowl. You got a long way to go. You have a long way to go. And now, mind you this, they don't look for future down the line. But you better start getting better. Because I'm going to tell you right now, New England's going to be in rebuild mode, but Miami ain't in rebuild mode. They are in dominant mode. They're looking to try to get past Kansas City, get to a Super Bowl. That's where this franchise is at and where they're going to go for the next 2 to 3 years. Right? If Tua doesn't have any more health issues. Let me go also here. The Jets are probably going to have Aaron Rodgers next year. I'm pretty sure they're going to be prepared just in case he's not playing, or if he's injured, or if he gets injured again. They won't be dealing with the Zach Wilson thing. They came in unprepared for that. I can assure you they will be because they got a number 1 defense, top 5 defense, when they got a quarterback. That's just in your division. That's not including the conference. Where did you see what the Houston Texans are doing? See what C.J. Stroud's doing? Now he's coming. You see, even though the Steelers with that horrible offensive coordinator, they got to get the hell out of there. You see, they are winning, right?
Matt Canada.
You see that they are winning.
Fire, Matt Canada.
I just want you to think about this. You see that they're winning, right?
Yep, 6-3.
Okay, so you see what Lamar Jackson does.
Mm-hmm.
We all know when Burrow gets healthy and comes back, what he's going to do with all those weapons, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Jacksonville coming. You know Herbert and those boys ain't going nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of all that, you are going into a new stadium, and you got all that sitting right there for next year. So you do what you can do. You get in the playoffs and lose because that's what's going to happen, okay? Let me make it clear. In the offseason, you either trade Stephon Diggs and say we need to get pieces in here to make ourselves another top team again, or you're going to go through the same thing again, and people are going to get tired of it. I'm telling you, it's over. It's over. They need to find a solution B. Work through this season, do what you got to do, and it is. But I tell you what, I can't stress enough, Brian Dable and Leslie Frazier both leaving that team, that was a lot of damage. And you see it on the team as they're playing now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that is.
So that's our NFL topics. But I'm going to grab something from you. You kept saying it's over.
Yes.
It's about to be over for another franchise in NBA. So we're going to NBA real quick because I got like 5 minutes for this dude.
Okay.
It's over for another team. Either something happens now or they're about to disband because Steve Ballmer done lost a whole lot of money. We're going to the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, there's so much NBA material to talk about, but we're coming up on 2 hours and we got some other stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fit in the NBA talk for the next podcast in a week or so.
Right.
But right now, I need you to throw me the alley-oop. It's over for the LA Clippers.
Super facts.
They extended a couple years ago or a year ago Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They didn't play a lot of games last year due to being unhealthy for the second or third time.
It's just becoming a trend for them.
Then they add Russell Westbrook, and it seems like things were clicking the first couple games. But we have news. Somebody wants to wiggle his way out of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Either that or eat his way out of here.
Yeah. So you asked me, you said, hey, Deshaun, what are your thoughts on James Harden?
Yes.
I need you to lob me up the alley-oop.
So, the whole thing is, we talked about this off camera, is that James Harden is, left Philly. And he went to L.A., which I don't know why that happened. But I think what I want to know about your thoughts about this, because I'm not going to bring up the stats. I'm going to let you do it because I know you kind of got everything pulled up on this. I don't understand how Harden is moving. First of all, how he got to L.A. But to just give a point, what is your thoughts on him going from Philly to the Clippers? And especially what's going on with, now you see what Philly's doing now.
So for context, he really ruined his stock now that Tyrese Maxey dropped that 50 ball. And he's showing that, hey, I could have did this last year, but y'all thought he was the guy. And I'm 22, 23 years old. So now Tyrese Maxey just saved Joel Embiid from leaving Philly.
Facts.
Now Joel Embiid is like, oh, you could drop 50 points plus assists on high percentage shooting. I'm about to stay here. If this works, build Tyrese Maxey a statue in Philly if Joel Embiid stays there another 5 years. That's one. Put a pin to that. James Harden just ruined his stock because now this is the fourth team and they started off 0-5 with you in the lineup. It's so bad that now, and I just saw reports pulling up to the podcast, Russell Westbrook gets on Twitter or social media or his team says, Russell says he has no problem sitting on the bench. Why? Why does he always get his way?
Yeah.
Talking about James Harden. Why, once again, are people acquiescing to James Harden? What has he proven to us? This ain't 2012 and 13 when he was wearing scoring titles and MVPs. He's 34 years old, and outside of his stats, because people love to bring up stats, it's a culture problem. When he doesn't get his way, what happens?
Acts out like a 5-year-old.
He acts out like a 5-year-old, and we talked about this ever since we started this podcast last year. You don't want that around the younger athletes because then they say, if he gets away with it, I'm about to show my ass.
Facts. Yep.
So that's my thoughts. Forget his stats. Why is Russell Westbrook, who finally found a comfortable position in LA after he left the Lakers and he gets along with Kawhi Leonard and it's looking good. Now he's like, all right, kudos to him. He's showing he's a team player. He's showing, all right, I'm 32, 33. I'll sit on the bench and come off the bench if this is going to make it work. But why? Because a couple of those games that I watched, homeboy wasn't looking good on a wing. He was getting locked up on defense, shooting air balls, turning the ball over, getting a shot blocked. He's not that guy anymore. People have figured this out. Kobe called this when Kobe was alive. He said, if you got a guy at the top of the league who's an ISO scorer, you're never going to win the championship. What else does James Harden do outside of ISO scoring when he's hot? Because he's took 2 steps back.
Yeah.
He's getting up there in age. He's 34 going on 35. These newer players coming into the league, especially international players, this is going to be a whole nother topic for a podcast. These guys are coming in 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet. We see Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
There is a new, bigger guard. He used to get away with that for the last 7-8 years before this.
Yeah.
Because smaller guards were guarding him. Marcus Smart, who's 6'3", and Marcus was locking him up. Or guards 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". These newer players who are positionless players who can defend multiple positions are 6'9" with 7 feet wingspans. That whole step back, I'm gonna travel and shoot a 3-ball ain't working on that kid who's in the league, who's 20 years old with fresh legs, who's 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan.
Right.
His game is becoming obsolete, and people keep letting him get away with what he's doing as if this is 2013. Wiggle your way out the league.
Yeah.
You got paid. You haven't won a championship. You're not going to win a championship. And Steve Ballmer is about to lose millions and millions and probably billions of dollars with this. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George's contract is up after next season. Paul George is 34. I think Kawhi Leonard, I'm not going to Wikipedia. I think he's about the same age. So now you got middle-aged players with health problems. Russell Westbrook, who's on the backside of his career, and James Harden. Please tell me how that's going to work out moving forward.
It's going to go bad fast.
You got the Denver Nuggets, because you know how you talk football teams, so I'll talk basketball teams. You got the young Denver Nuggets who got Luka Doncic. We all know who that is with Kawhi Leonard. I'm sorry, not Kawhi Leonard. Kyrie Irving, I'm sorry. And they got some pieces they're building. You got Denver Nuggets who's still there. Hell, the worstest team, I want to say the New Orleans Pelicans on the West Coast, they got Zion Williamson.
Yeah, and he's playing at all.
And he's starting to figure out, even though there was some controversy. You got the Sacramento Kings, who's a young squad. You got teams over there that I don't see you getting ahead of with injury-prone players in their mid-30s and a diva who hasn't done nothing. Somebody refresh my memory from a basketball standpoint. What has James Harden produced in the last 5 seasons?
Nothing. Nothing but drama. Nothing.
So why is he? And this is why I disagreed when he was leaving Philly, where the analyst was trying to take his side to make it seem like, well, maybe Steve Ballmer was lying.
Daryl Morey, you mean?
I'm sorry, Daryl Morey.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we could kind of see James Harden point. Maybe Daryl Morey promised him something. No, he probably went back to ownership and asking, hey, can we get this extension? And they looked at him and said, who you want to give an extension to? Who you want to give a 4th and 5th year to?
Yeah.
Because that's what that conversation probably sounded like.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Daryl Morey. Hey, well, you know, that's my boy James Harden. We go way back to the Houston Rockets. I don't think a 3-year deal will work. Can we get him 5-year, $200 million? Have you lost your damn mind? If you are a GM, would you give James Harden a 4th or a 5th year at the age of 34 with how he's acting?
No.
Absolutely. You will be
not.
out of your damn mind.
Yeah.
You don't deserve it. You haven't earned it. We saw how you left Brooklyn. We saw even when you were the man last year in Philly, how Boston knocked you outside your head. So Boston ain't scared of y'all. And then now you took 2 steps back this year.
You got to remember, though, before he left from Philly, he was trying to get out of there because Houston – he went to Houston. Ime Udoka said, no, we're not dealing with this. Whatever
you want to come back to Houston with these younger players with Gerald, I'm sorry, not Gerald, with Green and them, and put that in the culture of these young 21-year-olds?
Whatever he had going on, whatever conversation he had with Ime Udoka, it didn't sit well.
The conversation was, if I come over here, I still want to be the man. Ime Udoka probably looked at him and said, oh, that's nice, but we're not going that route.
Yeah, right.
You are, this is what, and I'm going to end it on this. This is what was the problem with Carmelo Anthony when he got this. He said it. He said, when I was at that age of 33, 34, I still wanted to, and he could play. But you are at that age where you have to take a step back.
Yeah.
You are not that guy anymore.
Right.
These younger players are coming defensively, offensively. The game is changing. It's not this ISO score. I'm going to stand at the top of the wing, travel across the 3-pointer, and do 2 step backs and chuck a 3. That's not where the game is at anymore. And then these players that are, especially coming from Europe, are more advanced than us American players. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, it's not translating anymore. It hasn't worked. He hasn't produced anything. And now that you're getting older, the ownership of what we talked about with Kyrie Irving last year are now cuddling up and saying, don't give that guy no extension.
Yeah.
This owner knows that owner knows that owner. And they're like, oh, don't send him over here.
Yeah, we don't want him. You know what, too? I never forgot remember when he was at OKC with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant in his prime? Remember what the management said because remember, he was the first one out the door.
Yeah.
You know what they said? They said the reason why they didn't sign him wasn't because they had the money. They said we saw how he choked in the finals. I never forgot that. And I didn't understand it because I was like, well, they were all playing. What's he done? Same thing. You said, look at his track record. He's never even gotten to the finals.
Like, I just want y'all to think about this who are fans of this guy. And it's no disrespect. He is talented. He won scoring titles.
Yep.
He got all them accolades. But moving forward after the age of 34, you don't get more athletic.
Yeah.
You get less athletic. Look at the players in the league who are bigger wing players, bigger guards, 6'9" point guards, 6'7" point guards with long 7-foot wingspans. He cannot compete with that because the guards of his generation was his size or smaller. The point guard and the wing positions have changed very dynamically with the size of the players. So just to end this off with James Harden, I think he played himself. It's not going to work in LA. And then after next year, when Kawhi Leonard's contract's up, Paul George contract's up, I don't know what he's going to do, but he's damn near going to be out the league unless he says, I'm going to accept the bench role.
Which
that's
not going to happen.
That's my thoughts on James Harden. God bless.
You know why it's not going to happen? Because when he came to LA, he said, I am the system. He said that. He said, I am the system.
And what did Tyrese Maxey do that same day? He dropped 50 points.
Facts.
So you were the system, and when you left, Tyrese Maxey dropped 50 points, and they look like they want to build him a statue in Philly. Take your system and shove it.
Oh, God.
I'm not used to playing in the system. I am the system. Tyrese Maxey said, okay, watch this.
Yeah, facts. Super facts.
So we're off the NBA. We got one more brief topic. And then I'll turn it over to you for the tribute.
Yeah.
So briefly, we're going to do this in real time. It's Friday night. Tomorrow's the CAA game between UAlbany and Monmouth. It's a very big game.
Facts.
We got less than 24 hours. By the time we end the podcast, get home, I stop by Madison and grab a slice of pizza, get home and edit. It's going to be 10, 11 o'clock.
Hey.
So in real time, you give me what is the winning recipe for UAlbany? And what is the winning recipe for Monmouth if you had to give a take for both teams?
They have to stop the run.
You got to name the team.
UAlbany has to stop the run first because that kid, if he gets going, it's over.
J-Rock.
J-Rock for Monmouth, it's over. They have to stop the run, and if they can stop the run, they can slow Monmouth down. They can beat them. For Monmouth, they're going to have to relinquish that pass rush that UAlbany has, and they're going to have to be able – they're going to do two things. One, for them to be competitive in this game, they're going to have to be able to run the ball, keep that defense on the field, and keep UAlbany's offense off the field. Doesn't matter what you do to Poffenberger. I saw Stony Brook play defense good, but they didn't keep him off the field. They couldn't keep him off the field. So the more opportunities you give UAlbany, like some schools, some teams, you give them opportunities. You can give them many opportunities they want. They ain't going to do nothing. UAlbany, you can't keep giving them opportunities. So when it has to be a combination of running the ball and keeping UAlbany's offense off the field. That's what it has to do. As long as they do that, Monmouth will be okay.
Okay, and let me correct myself. His name is Jaden Sheridan. He's the running back. And because we covered Monmouth last year and this year.
Yeah.
And every time we went there, good, bad, or ugly, this kid in an open field is crazy.
Yeah.
So that's your
opinion
for Monmouth and UAlbany.
Correct.
Who wins?
UAlbany.
Okay.
I think UAlbany wins.
This in real time, y'all.
I think they win, but they're gonna win convincingly. They're gonna have to win big.
Whoa! You trying to say they about to blow Monmouth out?
No, they're not gonna blow Monmouth out.
Okay, I'm putting them on the spot, y'all.
I think they'll win by 14. I think they'll win by 14.
Monmouth about to take this personal.
I think Monmouth, please don't be mad at me. I think
Monmouth about to take this personal.
But I think
we got love for y'all.
I think after what happened last year, at the end of that game, UAlbany's got a lot to say, and it's for a championship. So not only is it just a championship they're riding for, what happened at the end of that game is definitely some motivation.
And for those of you guys who are missing a reference, there was an apparent hit on Julian Hicks last year at the end of the game, and it wasn't called for targeting, and then they had to walk off the field. So that's what he's referencing. So you think it's going to be a little bit bad blood?
Yeah. Not bad blood, but it's just going to be motivation. You know?
Okay. So Shout out to both sets of student athletes. Shout out to the student athletes from UAlbany and the coaching staff. Shout out to the student athletes from Monmouth and the coaching staff. Hopefully it's a good game tomorrow. Best of luck to both of you guys. So let's close this out, man.
So I wanted to, before we end this, and I recently just had to say bye to somebody Sunday. A friend of mine by the name of Gordon Ward. We call him G, but his name is Gordon Ward. He's from Brooklyn. I met him when I was at Medgar Evers College.
I believe when you brought me to Medgar Evers, I met him one time when I was following behind you.
Yeah. You met him. Now, we were sitting there politicking, and you kind of sort of
saw his energy.
Well, yeah, me and him going back and forth, and that's just me and G. Like, we always went back and forth. We was always getting into it, me and him. And I'm trying to, to speak about the man he was. He was who he said he was. He was Brooklyn. He showed love the Brooklyn way. He was a smart dude, man. And that's when I'm wearing a football jersey, because that was his thing. Football jersey, jeans and Timbs, and the fatigue hat.
Real New York.
Yeah, real New York. Yeah. And he loved hip hop. And I'm talking like Main Source Live from the Barbecue hip hop, Nas Illmatic, Nas Halftime, Boot Camp Clik hip hop. That's who G was. Sons of Man, Wu-Tang, like that, to give you an idea, when we had to say goodbye to him Sunday, he was wearing a Wu-Tang shirt.
That's love.
Yeah. So, I had to say goodbye to him. I feel, I don't want to use the word responsible. I feel bad, because I think that when, I'm not going to speak about, I'm not in position to really, I didn't get permission from his family for whatever he was going through. I didn't think that I'd be saying goodbye to him at this point. I thought I had a lot of time. I thought he's going to be a grandfather one day and we're going to laugh everything off. But it didn't get to that point. So I just want to say, he was a great man. I could be on here talking all day, so I'm trying to keep this as short as possible.
Rap for your man,
to kind of give you an idea who he was. Me and G knew each other for, I want to say maybe a year or two at this point. And I had got into a situation and I really had nowhere to go. And his moms and him took me in when I had nowhere to go. They said, you're not going to be out in the street. We gonna let you be in here. He also, for people that know, that's watching this or might see this shout out, that's just that person. There's not too many people that did that for me. So to kind of give you, I always talk about people up here that I was rolling with and people down there I was rolling with. And specifically that family of people that I was with. And I don't know, I can't say all the names, will be here all day. But that family, that MEC family, that Brooklyn Queens family, there was a whole bunch of them. Some of them I don't talk to anymore. We just lost contact. But if they're not around me, I'm in dinner in jail. And Gordon was one of those people. So if he doesn't take me in and he doesn't have the conversations with me that he's having, meaning like when I was in school, I was kind of not who I am now. I was a little bit more aggressive and I was a little bit more vocal and I said what I needed to say and I was going to do it. But Gordon kind of, he kind of worked with me. He was working with rough around the edges. That's just who he was. You know what I'm saying? He took you for who you was, but he also checked you when you needed to be checked. Because trust me, and him got into it a few times, but he told me what I needed to hear when I didn't want to hear it. That's what I loved him for. And he took me when nobody else would take me in. You know what I'm saying? So, it's crazy, man. He was an Illmatic cat. Like, he was smart. Like, he English, he was the man. But he would wear stuff like we wear and be on the board with the chalk, writing and teaching you about English and words to use. Sometimes he would be like barking on me, like yo, man, yo, Czar, you can't be doing this. What is this? Like, he would take the paper and throw it at me. I'd be ready to swing on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that was my man. You know what I'm saying? He told me he loved me enough to tell me when I was wrong and when I wasn't. And he molded me and everything. And if it wasn't for him to just kind of get the character and the individual he was, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't even be doing this. So, he helped me when I was thinking about starting this whole movement. you know, he was kind of one of the ones behind me, like, yo, man, that's what you should be doing. I'm kind of freestyling. I thought I was gonna write something, but I wasn't gonna do that. If G was here, he's probably looking down now, like, don't try to write nothing, man. Don't do that. Yeah. Like say what you gonna say and say what you feel, and you know what I'm saying. So I just want to say that, you know, for people that didn't know him or people that's gonna see this, you know, like, he was a great man. He was a wonderful person. He loved his kids. He loved his family. He always, whoever was around him, he showed them love, and he never judged us, and he took us for who we was, and that's priceless to me. You know what I'm saying? Even to be funny to kind of say, he was one of those cats, you know, as you know, there was something personal I was going through, and I saw somebody doing something that I didn't really appreciate, so I had to remove myself from that situation. But the point I'm making is how we reacted to it. Gordon's voice is in my head, like, yo, he was like, he hit me in my head, like, yo, what you doing? Don't go do that.
Yeah.
Let that take care of itself. You know who you are and what you are. You know, and he was always about the element of surprise. Mm. So his whole thing is, he taught me how to deal with people. When I used to want to deal with them a certain way, he said, yo, this is what you should be doing. This is what you're going to do, and this is what you need to do. And when I was going through what I was going through, you know personally what I'm talking about. Yeah. He was like, yo, that's in my head. Deal with it like this. Mm. Don't deal with it like what you really want to deal with it like. And when we talked about everything we was talking about earlier about, you know, black men being older and teaching and doing and saying the right way, he led that way. He dressed like Jim Jones too. He looked just like them cats in the street too. But he also taught us the right way. He showed me, like, you ain't gotta be like this. Like, you can still be this and be this and still be this. And that was before that was the cool thing. That was before the end thing of what they're trying to preach now. He was doing that before social media came on. So I can't, you know, I can, like I said, man, I'm just trying to think of things. I just can't explain. There's really not words to kind of explain how great of a person he was. That's all I can say. He was Brooklyn, and he was hip hop, and he was a great father, and he was a great person, and he was a great friend. And I can't say enough, and I can't stress enough if the jewels that he used to hit me with probably kept me and got me where I'm at now.
And like I said, if you want to keep rocking, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
we don't disclose how we know each other.
Yeah.
We sometimes we say it, sometimes we don't. But for the people who say this is a personal moment. But you know, this is my blood. This is my cousin.
Right.
And we done been in a few situations outside of media where I saw somebody trying to play him, and I get offense.
Yeah.
But when I know somebody's right for my cousin, no matter if his ex situation or if his friends, then I got just as much love for them than he does.
Right.
Anybody that does right by my cousin, you do right by me. You know, I look at you like, yo, you an asset because that's my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Ditto.
When he took me down to Brooklyn, because, you know, I run behind my little cousin. I mean, I run behind my big cousin.
No, it's all good.
You know,
good
energy, good people. But from what he's telling me, I didn't even know this. From what he's repping for his man, which he should be, I didn't know, you know, had G not been there for him the way he was, I might not have a big cousin. Maybe my big cousin would be doing something else as far as getting into situations that would have let him in jail. So just for that perspective, any friend of my family that does right by my family, I'm always indebted in. So although I didn't know him, how you and your crew know him, I send my condolences to his family, to his children, to you, and to his day one friends. Because from what you described, and that's a hell of a man. So I definitely want to salute him and have him where he's at, you know, and send my sympathy and condolences to you as well as to his family, man.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing too, man. Like, they say you don't die unless that person is forgot about. So I'm gonna make sure he's never forgotten. Never, ever forgotten. We should have. I just think we should. I should have been there more. So you just always regret you thinking like, yo, I should have. You know, you just think what you should have did.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, you know, everything happens for a reason. So I'm just gonna try to think of it like, yo, he probably up there talking to my grandfather, to my man T's pops. You know, Just when I get there, whenever that day is, he'll be waiting for me too. And we'll politic and talk about hip hop and all that stuff and be arguing again. Because he's probably got some things he wants to talk to me about now that he see me doing. He like, nah, we ain't doing that. Hey. Like, he called me Czar. He like, nah, Czar, we not doing that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, just salute to him and who he was. Because, like I said, I can't put into words like the jewels that I to this day use to get through tough situations. And, so just thank you. Because let me say this. I want to say this, and I'm not going to really, get into it. But it's like we were saying before. I seen somebody moving in a way at a certain age that I wasn't going to be comfortable moving with them on. Mm-hmm. So I removed myself from that situation. And trust me when I tell you, I wanted to say or do something to deal with that situation, and I chose not to. And G's words were ringing through my head when that was going on. Mm. So that's just the one jewel of blessing I can give. So yeah, I mean, if you got, let me say this too. This is ended. Yo, if you got a friends, man, you not seeing eye to eye with, but they like your brother, you need to figure that out, because you just never know. I didn't think I would be saying bye to him Sunday. I didn't think that. So that's sitting with me. It's probably gonna sit with me for how long? And my grandfather's gone. That still bothers me. Yeah. So
rest in peace, Uncle Rob, man.
Yeah. So just cherish it. Don't think like you got all day every day. Cherish it, because my man is gone. I think probably last time I saw him, he was in way better position, and we were. It's funny, we was talking. We were starting this whole thing. So, I didn't think that would be the last time me and him had a face-to-face conversation. We had many conversations after, but over the phone, we always kept in touch. But I thought we had to, we was like grandfathers. That's what I thought the time we were going to have, and we don't. So, I just can't tell you. I know you hear it all day. Blessed that you wake up every day, kiss and love your kids every day, and the people that are really your friends, hold on to them tight, say hi to them, send them a what up text, whatever. Do it. Find the time if you don't have the time. That's all I had to say. It's probably G telling me to say that.
You want to show his picture?
Yeah, sure. This is this picture. I don't know if it's you can see it on the camera.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay. All right.
Salute, man, and rest in peace to Gordon, a.k.a. G forever, man.
Facts. All right. I hope I represent him well. All right.
We gonna end it like that. One love. Enveonline, we out.
One.